Chapter 1206. The air was quiet, but Bai Feng had clearly received a response. After bowing respectfully, he nodded to Qin Yu and turned to leave. A gust of wind swept up the flower petals on the ground, and his figure vanished. As Qin Yu was hesitating, feeling a bit nervous and speechless, the courtyard door in front of him creaked open. He took a deep breath, tidied up his robes, and stepped into the courtyard. Then he saw a middle-aged Taoist standing under a peach tree with his hands behind his back. His back was ordinary, and he wasn't too tall. But with just a glance, Qin Yu felt as if he were facing a towering and endless mountain. Then, in the next moment, Qin Yu discovered that he really had appeared in front of a towering mountain that seemed to connect the heavens and earth. It was an unsurpassable mountain. A terrifying pressure was released from it, shrouding him within. In the small courtyard, the middle-aged Taoist under the peach tree didn't move. Qin Yu's expression was one of struggle, and his forehead was covered with beads of sweat. With a stuffy cough, his body trembled and his face paled. His pupils violently shrank, revealing a look of shock. He hurriedly bowed and said, "Junior Qin Yu greets the garden master." The Taoist responded and turned around. His eyes fell on Qin Yu. "You woke up so quickly. Not bad. From today onwards, you are a disciple of the Peach Garden, ranked 9th. A tremor descended upon Qin Yu's mind. As the Peach Blossom Origin Master spoke, he instantly felt a connection with the Peach Garden beneath his feet. The great Tao of a true saint had been formed, and his words were true laws. From this moment onwards, Qin Yu was truly recognized as a cultivator of the Peach Garden. It turned out that this first glance was a test. Qin Yu knelt down and bowed. "Disciple greets, honorable master." The garden master nodded casually. "Rise. My peach garden doesn't have many rules. Today's situation is special, and I have received your greetings. There is no need to do so in the future." Qin Yu respectfully said, "Yes, honorable master." The garden master said, "You can slowly learn the other rules of the peach garden in the future. Today, I will tell you the first rule. The peach garden doesn't raise idlers. Don't think that just because you are my disciple you can do nothing and enjoy all kinds of cultivation resources. It is best not to look forward to meat pies falling from the sky. What you can obtain depends on how much you contribute to the peach garden. There are many ways to earn contribution points. Today, there is one in front of you. Can you hand over the spirit body bred in the endless sea?" He didn't ask whether or not it was in his hands, nor did he foreshadow anything. He just went straight to the point. Qin Yu's body stiffened. He had never expected that the first thing the yard mistress would ask about was spiritual bodies. It seemed that they valued it a lot. Indeed, Zhou Lei had entered the endless sea because of the will of the peach garden. But the problem was that the spirit body had already been eaten by the old turtle. Even if Qin Yu wanted to hand it over, he couldn't. "Master, that spiritual body," the yard master said calmly. "Every new disciple can receive a gift from me. It can be considered as a greeting gift or a gift for becoming a disciple. However, the value of the gift is different. Do you understand what I mean?" The sweat on Qin Yu's forehead increased. Was this the peach blossom spring master who had crossed the sea and reached the other shore? His style of doing things was a little too much. Wasn't this telling him that if he wanted something good, he should exchange it with the spiritual body? Otherwise, he shouldn't even think about it. But now his heart calmed down. The yard master's behavior didn't seem to be forcing him. Was it that nice? After hesitating for a moment, Qin Yu said, "I dare not hide it from master. The spiritual body has been used, so I—" He wanted to say something, but stopped. He didn't dare to say anything definite. If the yard master was angry, he could only make the old turtle vomit blood. Giving up a part of his soul power was better than being hammered by a true sage. No, there was no need to be hammered. Just a finger would be enough to put Qin Yu in a life and death situation. The yard master frowned. "Used? She glanced at Chinyu. If that's the case, take your things and find a place to stay. The scene in front of him changed. You didn't even know what had happened before he was thrown out of the courtyard. Looking at the tightly shut courtyard door, he was secretly shocked at the horror of the true sage realm. On the other hand, he felt even more strange. This yard master was completely different from what he had imagined. Did he pass the test by refusing to give up the spiritual body? Moreover, he hadn't mentioned anything about the law of space from beginning to end. It had to be known that those half-sages had rushed back and forth for the law of space. It was clear how precious it was. How come it wasn't valued at all in the peach blossom garden? You looked down at the two dry things in his hand, a jade pendant and a set of robes. The corners of his mouth twitched. Was this the greeting gift that a dignified, true sage gave to his disciple? It was too unrealistic to be so shabby. However, he didn't dare to reveal this thought. Not only could he not reveal it, but he also had to show his attitude. Yu respectfully bowed. Thank you for your generous gift, master. Disciple thanks you. The courtyard was quiet. There was no response. It seemed that the yard master had sent Yu away by throwing him out just now. Yu bitterly smiled inwardly. He looked around and suddenly found that he didn't know where he should go. Suddenly, someone patted his shoulder. Yu turned around, but there was no one in front of him. Haha, are you junior brother Yu? Do you want to make a bet? As long as you can find me, I will help you solve your problem. If you can't find me, give me the jade pendant in your hand. The voice came from all directions and was difficult to lock onto. It seemed that every peach blossom was trembling and speaking together. Yu narrowed his eyes and cupped his hands together. May I ask which senior brother you are? Only a disciple of the peach blossom garden would dare to cause trouble in front of a true sage. Junior brother is very cunning. Do you want to use this method to lock onto my position? Do you agree to the bet? If you agree, I will tell you. Yu's eyes flashed. I agree. Ha ha ha. Thank you for your support, junior brother. I am the 6th in front of master, so you can call me 6th senior brother. Then let's start looking. The 6th senior brother's concealment method was truly superb. Yu had already sensed with rapt attention, but he still couldn't find anything. However, since he dared to make this bet, he certainly had a way. Closing his eyes as if he were sensing something, Yu suddenly stepped forward and walked to the side. 6th senior apprentice brother, please come out. There was a sudden burst of laughter. Old six, I never thought you would have a day like this. Junior brother is fierce. You should teach him a lesson. These words were said in high spirits, as if they were filled with the joy of avenging a great hatred. With the laughter, a large man walked out with his head held high. He really was a large man. Besides the variation humans, this was the first time Yu had seen such a tall and strong cultivator. With every step he took, although there was no sound, Yu could feel the earth shaking. This was a feeling that could only be sensed, not described. Blazing and surging blood energy fluctuations surged like billowing tides, making one feel as if they were facing a wave of heat. He was like a moving volcano in the shape of a person. The large man's smile was incomparably brilliant. He reached out a hand towards Yu. Junior brother is fierce. I am your 5th senior apprentice brother. You can call me Iron Mountain. With a muffled sound, Yu's entire body seemed to shrink and both his legs sank into the ground. Iron Mountain's smile stiffened. He quickly grabbed Yu and lifted him up from the ground, an awkward expression on his face. Junior apprentice brother, are you all right? I was too excited and didn't control my strength properly. I'm really sorry. Yu bitterly smiled. Half of his body was still in a sore and numb state, and this was only an inadvertent pat from him. The disciples of the Peach Blossom Garden were truly terrifying, and this 5th senior apprentice brother's strength was terrifyingly strong. He was simply a vicious beast in human form. Qin Yu moved his body and cupped his hands together. I'm fine. I can still withstand it. Fifth senior apprentice brother, there is no need to worry. Iron Mountain laughed. Good. Junior brother's mortal body has been cultivated quite well. This is the correct path. We men need to have a body of steel and iron in order to live in this world with our heads held high. Junior apprentice brother, don't you think so? Qin Yu squeezed out a smile. He thought that there weren't many men in this world that could compare with fifth senior apprentice brother in terms of strength. Moreover, you mustn't be too excited. Otherwise, if you hit me again, I really might vomit blood. Sixth brother, honorable master, is right here. Don't be so shameless. Perhaps to express his apology, Iron Mountain stepped on the ground and spoke up for Qin Yu. Bah! Fifth senior apprentice brother, don't speak nonsense. I've always been someone who accepts a bet, and I've never done something so tasteless as reneging on a debt. With a flustered and exasperated scream, he drilled out from where Qin Yu had been. What was amazing was that throughout this entire process, the ground didn't crack at all, as if he were a part of the earth to begin with. Standing beside Iron Mountain, these two senior apprentice brothers formed a sharp contrast. One was strong, and the other was thin and shriveled, as if he were a sick ghost. But his eyes were incomparably bright. They swiveled around. It was clear his thoughts were running wild. If it weren't for Iron Mountain speaking up, he really might have refused to acknowledge his debt. Ha! Junior apprentice brother, how are you? I was just joking with you just now. Junior apprentice brother, please don't mind me. Sixth senior apprentice brother brightly smiled. My name is Earthway, and I am Honorable Master's sixth brother. You will know in the future that your sixth senior apprentice brother is a man of his word, a true man of his word. He absolutely isn't someone who can be compared with a simple and honest person. Iron Mountain wasn't angry. He chuckled. That's right, junior apprentice brother. Remember that sixth brother is someone who cares about face the most. Since you won the bet, he will definitely give you a greeting gift. After all, arranging for you to stay in the peach garden was the mission that elder senior apprentice brother gave us. Your sixth senior apprentice brother is such an honest person. So how could he fool you with something like this? Sixth brother, am I right? Sixth brother Earth Wei had a wonderful expression on his face. He looked as if he wanted to tear apart Qin Yu's mouth, but he still forced himself to remain indifferent. Cough, cough, of course. I, sixth brother, have always been very generous to my junior apprentice brothers and sisters. Iron Mountain clapped his hands. Good, sixth brother, good job. Junior apprentice brother's jade pendant is something that Honorable Master bestowed upon him. In any case, you should at least take out something of equal value. Hee, let me tell you, Honorable Master is in the courtyard. If you want to take out something, you better think carefully. Otherwise, you will be mocking Honorable Master, and that is a great sin of disrespect. Earthway nearly choked on his own saliva. He glared fiercely at Iron Mountain and reached out to grab Qin Yu's arm. Let's go, junior apprentice brother. Let's talk as we walk. We shouldn't delay Honorable Master's cultivation here. He pulled Qin Yu away, his expression as if he were being chased by a dog. This description wasn't too appropriate. Qin Yu carefully glanced at the courtyard. Luckily, there was no movement inside. It seemed that even a saint couldn't truly perceive everything. Sixth brother, let me tell you, the place that Honorable Master has arranged for you is quite good. Wei had an affectionate expression as he tightly held onto Qin Yu. His footsteps were extremely fast, not giving Iron Mountain chance to interrupt. Qin Yu didn't care about the bet. He just felt that the disciples of the Peach Garden were the same as the Yard Master. They were very different from what he imagined. To be able to enter the Yard Master's tutelage and become a true saint's disciple, it was necessary for them to have a tyrannical cultivation. He had seen Iron Mountain's strength. This skinny and sickly sixth senior apprentice brother had grabbed onto Qin Yu's arm as if it was cast from iron. Qin knew that Iron Mountain wasn't someone to be trifled with. However, the behavior of these two people didn't match the usual image of a high-level cultivator, let alone being cold and aloof. It was also quite appropriate to describe them with the word amusing. Iron Mountain coughed lightly. Earth Wei glared at him fiercely and spoke even faster. Junior apprentice brother, if there is anything you don't understand, just ask me. There aren't many rules in our peach garden. You just need to remember a few dead rules. We're here. Your residence is in front of us. Let me tell you, the scenery is really beautiful. It will definitely satisfy you. Big Brother Qin. Cheers of surprise rang out. Qin, who had been pulled by Earth Wei, paused and smiled. He had thought that he would be able to see her after entering the peach garden, but he didn't expect that she would be waiting here. Before she arrived, a fragrant wind blew over him. Earth Wei's face stiffened. He quickly let go of Qin and retreated, his eyes subconsciously sweeping around. Iron Mountain roared, "Junior apprentice brother, be careful!" But he was a bit too late. The figure in front of him had already thrown herself into Qin arms. This caused the complexions of 5th and 6th senior apprentice brother to change. They thought that their eldest senior apprentice brother had instructed them to take care of their junior apprentice brother's daily needs. If something went wrong, the two of them wouldn't be able to escape the blame. It seemed that they could only brace themselves and act as a meat shield today. Before Iron Mountain and Earth Wei could do anything, a giant shadow covered Qin figure. He raised his head and saw a huge head coming towards him from above. It was covered in scales, and the horn on its head flashed with a metallic luster. Its giant eyes were filled with indifference of a creature at the top of the food chain. It stared at Qin, who was protecting the person in his arms. It snorted, and with a low roar, its eyes became increasingly unfriendly. Dragon. It was more accurate to say that this was an incomparably formidable great dragon with an astonishing body and an aura that left one's heart racing. Qin narrowed his eyes. He looked into the great dragon's eyes and patted the person in his arms. Is this the young dragon from the past? It's actually so big. And that's it. Lei Xiaoyu looked up, excitement and joy on her face. She turned and glared at the great beast. Little Black, you cannot be rude to Big Brother Qin. The great dragon snorted, an aggrieved look in its eyes. Didn't we agree not to call me that in front of outsiders? Chapter 1207. His name was Little Black. In truth, he was already a very big dragon. In front of others, he had always been cold and aloof. But now he nearly cried tears of sadness. Little fish, you've changed. You used to be so good to me, but now that you see that surname Qin fellow, you immediately throw me to the back of your mind. There's no need to say anything else. A broken heart is like a shard of glass. Mine is also broken. Seeing that the great dragon was still unhappy, Lei Xiaoyu gave Qin an apologetic look. She let go and hugged his head, stroking it with both hands. All right, my azure dragon is the most sensible one. Don't be angry anymore, okay? Moreover, there are no outsiders here today. 5th senior apprentice brother and 6th senior apprentice brother definitely won't speak of this to anyone. Isn't that right? Shua. The azure dragon allowed Lei Xiaoyu to hug its head. Then its giant eyes turned and glared at Iron Mountain and Earth Elemental, full of menace. To put it simply, if the two of you were tired of living, then go out and tell others. Let's see if my white teeth are sharp enough. Ah, of course. Junior apprentice sister is right. 5th senior apprentice brother, and I definitely won't tell anyone, so you don't need to worry. Earth Elemental squeezed out a smile. He looked at the azure dragon with a flattering expression. He had no choice but to flatter it. The young dragon that junior apprentice sister had brought with her in the past had such a great background. Although its current strength wasn't much to them, its future growth potential was terrifying. If they attacked now, any one of them could teach this proud dragon a lesson. But what would they do afterwards? They definitely couldn't kill it. Otherwise, let alone their junior apprentice sister. Even the master of the Azure Dragon, that had already tacitly agreed to become the future guardian beast of the Peach Garden, would jump out and exterminate them. Since they couldn't kill it, no one was willing to provoke the Azure Dragon. Otherwise, with its narrow-mindedness, they would surely suffer a miserable fate in the future. Moreover, because of its bloodline, the Azure Dragon was greatly favored by third senior apprentice brother. Within the Peach Garden, it was a hegemon that no one dared to provoke. Iron Mountain's honest face revealed a puzzled look. He frowned and said, "What did you say?" "Because I've been cultivating these past days, my ears aren't too sharp, so I didn't hear anything." This was breathtaking. Looking at sixth senior apprentice brother's open mouth and the speechlessness in his eyes, Chinyu finally realized that there was some truth to what he said before. Some people seemed to be simple and honest, but in fact, they were rotten to the core. The Azure Dragon snorted. Of course, its snort was its snort, and when it snorted, it carefully avoided Lei Xiaoyu's ears. It squinted its eyes at them, full of disdain. It thought to itself, "I'm a peach orchard, and yet these people actually managed to sneak in. It's a disgrace to the family name." However, it didn't expect that before it followed Lei Xiaoyu here, Senior Brother 5th and Senior Brother 6 had already stayed in the Peach Blossom Garden for many years. They really didn't have the qualifications to express such sentiments. However, it did not matter whether he was qualified or not. What was important was that the Song Dragon had a backer, confidence, and potential. That was enough. Tai Shan and Tu Xing's faces stiffened as they roared in their hearts. "We are being looked down upon." Was he being looked down upon by this Azure Dragon? In any case, we can be considered as senior brothers. Don't you have any respect for your seniors? The atmosphere in the peach orchard was extremely corrupt. No, he had to find eldest senior brother and get him to ruthlessly kill the evil spirits in the garden. Glancing at each other, the two senior brothers nodded indiscernibly at the same time. They had already reached an agreement. They would go and complain together. As for why it was indiscernible, cough, cough, it had to be indiscernible. That Azure Dragon's eyes were sharp and he was narrow-minded. If it saw them, it would cause more problems and they might even be beaten up by it. They had to bring third senior brother here first. Tai Shan and Tu Xing's faces turned pale as they thought of senior brother by Feng's serious, virtuous, and long-winded experience. Should they reconsider the matter of complaining? If eldest senior brother was not up to standard, they would be in big trouble. The corner of the Azure Dragon's mouth curled up. That's right, it curled up slightly, revealing an extremely human-like sneer. If it could speak, it would definitely use an indifferent tone and lightly spit out two words: "Trash!" With just this bit of courage, you still want to complain about this dragon's evil deeds? Coward! However, since Old 5 and Old 6 were so cowardly, the possibility of them telling others his nickname was very low. That's right, they wouldn't dare. The Azure Dragon let out a sigh of relief. Just as it was feeling proud of itself, it suddenly felt a hand caressing its head. Its eyes widened and flames of anger surged out. It thought that even if you are Chinyu, even if you saved my life before, your actions are far too insolent. Only a small fish can touch my head. Today is the first time we meet. If I don't teach you a lesson, you will turn the world upside down in the future. It bared its teeth and turned its head, its eyes widening. It was about to use its ultimate dragon roar to teach Chinyu a lesson. The Azure Dragon's scales opened up and its mouth cracked open, revealing snow-white teeth. But no matter how hard it tried, the roar that reached its throat couldn't come out. Its giant dragon eyes stared at Chinyu. It didn't want to admit it, but it had to at this moment. It was actually afraid. That's right. The Azure Dragon that was praised by the yard mistress endlessly and whose future growth was limitless and whose bloodline was the noblest in the present dragon race, couldn't help but feel endless fear as Chinyu caressed it. It was like it had encountered a life or death nemesis. No, that wasn't the right description. To be more accurate, it had encountered an existence that absolutely restrained it in terms of life level. Abyssal titans fed on abyssal demon dragons and were peak vicious creatures of the abyss. Although the two worlds were polar opposites, they were essentially inextricably linked. Although the Azure Dragon was a peak existence of the dragon race in the vast Yang world, since it also had a dragon bloodline, it could naturally sense the abyssal titan aura on Qin Yu's body. Of course, if this was all, then an incomplete abyssal titan aura might not be able to scare the Azure Dragon. The key point was that Qin Yu's body hid the shadow of the abyss origin that had betrayed him. The existence of the old turtle filled in the flaws of the abyssal titan's aura and even raised it to a point where even the Azure Dragon feared it. Lei Xiaoyu looked at the Azure Dragon that wanted to roar but couldn't. Then she looked at Qin Yu, who was caressing it. Her eyes sparkled like stars. Big Brother Qin was too fierce. Even someone as proud as Little Black didn't dare to be presumptuous with him. My Big Brother Qin is the most handsome. Senior apprentice brothers Iron Mountain and Earth Element couldn't help but widen their eyes. As they looked at this strange scene, there was only one thought in their minds. Why? Junior apprentice Brother Qin Yu was a bit more handsome, but with the Azure Dragon's sense of beauty towards humans, there shouldn't be any difference. In terms of cultivation, the two of them had grown up together for so many years, so they should have some self-confidence in themselves. But the more they thought this, the more depressed they felt. To treat them differently to such a degree was simply too excessive. After touching it a few times, Qin Yu tapped a finger on the Azure Dragon's head, causing it to emit a metallic sound. Not bad. Your scales are quite thick, so your defensive power should be quite good. It seems you've eaten well these past years. Not only did he touch it, but he also tapped it. Iron Mountain and Earth Element licked their lips and coughed. They stepped forwards, thinking that even if they didn't tap it, they could at least touch it a bit, right? But before they could reach out, there was an angry roar. The Azure Dragon took this chance to turn its head, its eyes ruthlessly glaring at them. Bastard, did you really think that just anyone could touch my head? You actually dared to have such thoughts? You deserve to die 1,000 deaths. But in today's situation, he really wasn't in the mood to deal with Old 5 and Old 6. He should leave first to avoid any awkwardness. The dragon head quickly retracted. With a strong gust of wind, the massive shadow howled far away. All right, the proud Azure Dragon had been injured by Qin Yu today. It immediately decided to look for third senior apprentice, brother, to uphold justice for it. Humph, humph, touching is touching. But you actually dared to hit my head? Today, I'll let you know what it means to cause trouble with your own hands. Iron Mountain and Earth Element angrily drew back their hands. Earth Element looked in the direction that the Azure Dragon left in, and his eyes turned. Junior apprentice brother, I have some news for you for free. How about we forget about our previous bet? The Azure Dragon went to find third senior apprentice brother to complain. It is deeply favored by third senior apprentice brother, so you must be careful. Iron Mountain quickly spoke. He didn't forget to glance at Earth Element. Old 5, what did you say just now? My ears aren't too good, so I didn't hear you clearly. Earth Element. If this fellow could defeat Old 5, he would have absolutely fallen out with him. Today, this fellow had steeled his heart to oppose him. Losing things wasn't a big deal. When it came to making a bet, there were always winners and losers. As someone who walked this path, he was well aware of this. But the key point was that Qin Yu had just arrived today. If he lost the bet the first time they met, it would be a bit shameful. With the temperament of the people in the garden, they would definitely laugh at him. They would say that Old 6 was bragging about himself, but on the first day his prestige was destroyed by their junior apprentice brother. Things weren't the key, but face was. Lei Xiaoyu blinked her eyes. Big Brother Qin made a bet with 6th senior apprentice brother? Did he win or lose? Iron Mountain's ears immediately sharpened. He won. It was a clean win. Lei Xiaoyu cheered. My big brother Qin is fierce. She stuck out her tongue and looked at Earth Element in embarrassment. Fifth senior apprentice brother, I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. But I heard that senior apprentice brother is the most trustworthy person. You will definitely keep your word, right? Earth Element's face stiffened. His expression was uglier than crying. Yes, junior apprentice sister is right. I will definitely compensate you. Standing outside the door, Qin watched as fifth and sixth senior apprentice brothers left. Although this was his first day in the peach garden, he still felt very relaxed. This place and the people here were very different from what he had imagined. Very interesting. Seeing Qin in a daze, Lei Xiaoyu thought he was worried. She smiled and said, Big brother Qin, there is no need to worry. The senior apprentice brothers and sisters in the garden are all very, very good people. Sixth senior apprentice brother won't be dissatisfied just because he lost a treasure. She secretly smiled. But I must remind big brother Qin that sixth senior apprentice brother is someone who cares about face and likes to make bets. Since he lost to you today, he will definitely try to find a way to regain his face in the future. You must be careful. Qin glanced at her and saw her secretly smiling appearance. He suddenly felt a warmth in his heart. When this girl knew that she was about to die, she had forced herself to remain strong in despair. But now she was smiling so brightly like a blooming flower. He suddenly felt that some of the seemingly stupid things he did were in fact correct and worth it. For instance, this Lei Xiaoyu in front of him, as well as Master Yin who he met in the dark bright world. He hoped that after she woke up, she would also have a bright and beautiful life. Although Qin didn't say anything, Lei Xiaoyu could feel the warmth in his eyes. Her expression became increasingly intimate. Big brother Qin, let me bring you around to familiarize yourself with your residence. Let me tell you, after I heard you were coming, I personally cleaned this place. She held onto Qin arm and pushed open the courtyard doors. There were peach trees everywhere in the peach garden, and this place was no exception. A thick peach tree was planted deep in the courtyard. At this time, its branches gently swayed. Through the peach blossom mark on his arm, Qin could feel a faint trace of joy. It actually had a consciousness of its own, and it was welcoming its master's arrival. Lei Xiaoyu reached out and patted the peach tree. Every disciple of the peach garden has a peach tree like this. It is a guardian that honorable master bestowed upon us. As she spoke to hear, she carefully looked around. She lowered her voice and said, Big brother Qin, you should have seen honorable master already. Do you think that a dignified true saint is different from what you think? The truth is that honorable master is a bit stingy, but he is a very good person. He treats us disciples very, very well. You will understand in the future. For instance, this peach tree. The cultivators outside the peach garden can only dream of obtaining it no matter how much they rack their brains. Qin nodded. He looked at Lei Xiaoyu and said, Honorable master's thought has retreated. Ah. Lei Xiaoyu's eyes widened. She had an expression that said, How would you know? Then she said with pleasant surprise, Big brother Qin, you can sense honorable master's thought. Qin said, I can only sense a little bit. It's not too clear. Ah, that's great. I finally have a place to talk without worry. Lei Xiaoyu cheered. Then she quickly shut her mouth. Big brother Qin, are you joking with me? Really, this matter is too serious. I don't dare to speak carelessly. A strange expression crossed Qin face. He rubbed his chin. Could it be that honorable master likes to eavesdrop on others? Lei Xiaoyu's eyes widened. She covered his mouth. Big brother Qin, are you crazy? You dare to speak so loudly. Last time, second senior apprentice, brother accidentally said something. He didn't say it clearly and was directly thrown into the turbulent space flows by teacher. When he came back, he was miserable. Thrown into the turbulent space flows, Qin Yu's lips couldn't help but twitch. As someone who had grasped the space laws, he certainly knew how terrifying the turbulent space flows were. Once one was sucked in, there was a high chance they would be pulled into some unknown land or even fall into a chaotic region of space. It would be difficult for them to escape. To actually use such a method to punish a disciple, it seemed that the garden master wasn't too narrow-minded. He had to remember this. In the future, he had to be extremely cautious in his words and actions. He absolutely could not violate the garden master's taboos. Otherwise, who knew what punishment he would suffer? Qin Yu took a deep breath and then slowly exhaled. He coughed and said, "Xiaoyu, I just arrived at the peach garden and don't know how deep it is. Explain it to me so that I don't stir up any trouble." Chapter 1208. Lei Xiaoyu looked left and right. She didn't see any signs of her master making a move. Only then did she let out a long sigh. It seemed like the old man's consciousness had indeed retreated. Lei Xiaoyu asked Qin Yu again, and confirmed that he could truly sense the fluctuations of the yard master's thoughts. She was overjoyed. "Let me make this clear, big brother Qin. In the future, when I want to talk, I will come to you. You can't find me annoying." Qin Yu was left speechless. It seemed that the yard master's bad habit of eavesdropping was very serious. This wouldn't do. He had to solemnly remind the old tortoise to closely probe the mental fluctuations of the yard master to prevent any accidents from occurring. As Qin Yu thought of this, he subconsciously glanced at the peach tree in front of him. After all, his honorable master was the master of this peach garden. He had no choice but to be careful. Lei Xiaoyu sensed his gaze and said, "You don't have to worry about this, big brother Qin. The peach tree is our Tao protector and is of one heart with us. He won't speak carelessly." She pulled out a wooden chair and sat down. She picked up the teapot and poured 2 cups. Immediately, the fragrance of tea filled the air. "These are the tea leaves that my honorable master gave me last time. I don't know what variety it is, but master hesitated at the time. I've tasted it several times, and the taste is excellent. Big brother Qin, try it." Qin Yu picked it up and took a sip. As the tea fell into his stomach, faint traces of warmth began to nourish his soul. Even with the intensity of Qin Yu's soul force, he could feel a faint increase. From this, one could see just how amazing the effects of this tea were. Good tea. He put down the teacup and knocked on the table. No matter how good the tea was, it was still effective. Moreover, he would have plenty of time to slowly savor it in the future. Lei Xiaoyu said, "All right, then I won't beat around the bush and get straight to the point. Actually, as I told big brother Qin before, the senior brothers and sisters in the Peach Blossom Garden are all really good people. It's not difficult to get along with them, and there's no backstabbing and scheming like there is outside. As long as you don't get on teacher's bad side, there's basically no problem." Qin Yu nodded, indicating for her to continue. Lei Xiaoyu thought for a moment. "Teacher must have told you that the Peach Blossom Garden doesn't feed idlers, right? This isn't targeted at you, big brother Qin. All the disciples who enter the Peach Garden will be informed of this. I have to remind you that this is what Master said and what he did. Everything in the Peach Garden has to be fought for by yourself. Of course, there are many ways to earn contribution points. There is a booklet in the room with detailed records. Big brother Qin, you must have memorized them, because the contribution points of our Peach Blossom Garden are really, really useful." She subconsciously shrank back, her eyes turning as she looked at Qin Yu. She waited for him to give her an affirmative reply and confirm that her honorable master's will wasn't present. Only then did she continue to say, "Let me tell you something true. I came late, so I didn't personally experience it. It was my senior apprentice brother and senior apprentice sister who told me. Our second senior brother of the Peach Garden. I'll tell you about this person later. In short, many years ago, second senior brother was bullied outside. He came back and cultivated bitterly for 30 years. When he came out of seclusion, he wanted to take revenge. In the end, the Cho family somehow knew who he was. They were so scared that they hid in their turtle shells and refused to come out. Second senior brother blocked their door and cursed them for 3 days and 3 nights. The Cho family refused to come out no matter what. Guess what happened in the end? Lei Xiaoyu's face was filled with excitement and fascination. Our second senior brother actually used the contribution points he had accumulated to ask our honorable master to help him. With a single punch, he shattered the turtle shell. Second senior brother picked up his spear and killed his way in. I heard that the person who bullied him in the past was beaten miserably, and that it would be difficult for him to take care of himself for the rest of his life. Most importantly, our honorable master was watching, and the elders on the other side were scared to death. They didn't dare to interfere. Qin Yu's lips twitched. He thought that the dignified true saint of the Permethar River had actually been asked by his own disciple to become a hired thug. Even Lei Xiaoyu knew about such a ridiculous matter. It was clear that this wasn't a secret in the peach garden at all. In other words, the yard master didn't feel ashamed at all and didn't take this matter seriously. In fact, she even tacitly allowed the disciples to know the importance of contribution points. Nonsense. If even a true saint could be asked to become a hired thug, then what was the value of contribution points? The most direct example was right before his eyes. Qin Yu immediately decided that after Lei Xiaoyu left, he would immediately enter the room and find the booklet that recorded how to earn contribution points. He would memorize it word by word. The more of these things, the better. In fact, Qin Yu couldn't help but think that if he could really accumulate an astonishing number of contribution points, would he be able to ask the yard master to negotiate with Peach Girl and let Ningling and Yuqi go? Putting aside the possibility of this, there was at least such a possibility. As long as it was possible, Qin Yu was willing to give it a try. I can't provoke honorable master, and I have to accumulate contribution points. Once I know these 2 rules, I can basically live a normal life in the peach garden. Lei Xiaoyu hesitated for a moment. Let me tell you more about my senior brothers and sisters. Although I know they are good people, I haven't interacted much with them, so I won't comment much. I'll just give you a brief introduction. Qin Yu was the last to enter the sect. The yard master had personally acknowledged him as the 9th rank of the disciples. In other words, including himself, there were a total of 9 disciples. Peach Girl, the 3rd rank White Phoenix, the 5th rank Iron Mountain, the 6th rank Earth, and Lei Xiaoyu in front of him. He had already seen most of them. The ones he hadn't seen were eldest senior apprentice brother, 2nd senior apprentice brother, and 7th senior apprentice sister. Lei Xiaoyu had focused on these 3. She rambled on for a long time, and the information was fragmented. But as she continued to speak, 3 figures gradually appeared in Qin Yu's mind. Eldest senior apprentice brother, who loved to speak reason when necessary. He couldn't suffer grievances and would take revenge on the spot. If he couldn't take revenge, he would go into seclusion and cultivate. When he came out, he would immediately seek revenge. 7th senior apprentice sister was a very beautiful woman, but Lei Xiaoyu said that even to this day, she didn't know what 7th senior apprentice sister looked like. This was because every time Qin Yu saw her, 7th senior apprentice sister would have a completely unfamiliar but equally beautiful face. The reason White Phoenix was called White Phoenix was because she came from the Phoenix clan. In terms of pure bloodline, she was one of the most noble beings in the world. She was innately close to all living beings. In simpler terms, she was the type of person that had explosively good relationships with others and was blessed with heaven-defying luck. Wherever she went, good things would happen. The person she admired the most was eldest senior apprentice brother. Thus, she was deeply influenced by him and liked to reason with others. When eldest senior apprentice brother was in seclusion and 2nd senior apprentice brother was always away from home, most of the daily affairs of the peach garden were handed over to White Phoenix to manage. There was also another point. Because the Phoenix clan and the Azure Dragon bloodline had been close friends since ancient times, and now that the bloodlines of the two clans had withered away, White Phoenix treated the Azure Dragon extremely well. She simply doted on him and taught his junior apprentice brothers and sisters a lesson. She had even fought with second senior apprentice brother once. Thus, although the Azure Dragon wasn't the Garden Master's disciple, his status wasn't low at all. As Lei Xiaoyu spoke to hear, she comforted Qinyu. She would plead with the Azure Dragon so that it wouldn't incite third senior apprentice brother to cause trouble for them. Fifth senior apprentice brother Iron Mountain was a cultivator of the ancient bloodline's mortal body path. His cultivation revolved around his blood vitality, and his strength was unimaginable. Sixth senior apprentice brother Iron Mountain was said to be a spirit born from the earth and reincarnated into a human. He was born as one with the earth, and his escape techniques were the most amazing. In addition, he was the closest to fifth senior apprentice brother, so it was likely that he had learned some body transformation techniques. The strength of his mortal body was also astonishing. Then there was Lei Xiaoyu, who was ranked 8th. When she mentioned herself, this little girl was a bit shy. This was because, according to the rules of the Peach Garden, Qinyu had to call her senior apprentice sister if he saw her in the future. After all, she was ranked 8th and Qinyu was ranked 9th. She didn't feel too embarrassed to say too much, so she quickly glossed over it. Finally, there was Peach Maiden. When she was mentioned, Lei Xiaoyu was clearly a bit hesitant. Senior apprentice Sister Peach Maiden is ranked 4th and is Honorable Master's only daughter. She has the most honorable status, but she has always been a loner. Even in the Peach Garden, she doesn't get too close to the other disciples. After I entered the Peach Garden, I've only seen 4th senior apprentice, Sister, a few times, and we haven't spoken more than 10 words. Besides eldest senior apprentice brother and second senior apprentice brother, only senior apprentice brother White Phoenix is able to say a few words to 4th senior apprentice sister. Everyone else is a bit afraid of 4th senior apprentice sister, because when she doesn't want to speak, her eyes are far too cold. Lei Xiaoyu bitterly smiled as she finished speaking. It was clear that she had recalled some memories that weren't so beautiful. Then she spoke of some miscellaneous matters of the Peach Garden, such as the problems with entering and exiting the Peach Garden, some forbidden areas, and even the servants of the Peach Garden. Of course, there were servants, and there were many of them. The dignified Peach Garden, Holy Lands, couldn't possibly only have a true saint and 9 disciples, right? Although one could earn contribution points by sweeping the grounds, that didn't mean that one could earn contribution points just by sweeping the grounds. Furthermore, such a large peach orchard couldn't be left unattended. After every disciple of the Peach Garden officially entered the Peach Garden, they would automatically obtain a large number of servants to serve them. Basically, as long as they wanted to, they could even have someone feed them their meals. Moreover, they were all first-rate beauties. It had to be known that although a servant was a servant, it also depended on where it was. This was the Peach Garden, a dignified, true saint orthodoxy. Looking at the myriad heavens and myriad worlds, there were existences that stood at the peak. If any servant of the Peach Garden was casually thrown out, no matter what they did, they would attract countless outside cultivators. Many of them would fight over this, and there would even be cultivators from great clans. Thus, although they were servants, they absolutely couldn't be looked at with ordinary eyes. As she spoke of beauties, although Lei Xiaoyu had already extinguished some thoughts, she still subconsciously stared at Qinyu. What satisfied her was that Qinyu's expression was calm, as if he didn't care at all. That's right. Just what sort of eyesight did Big Brother Qin have? Even she couldn't humph, much less these common women. But even so, a man's mentality could change at will. He might not care about it now, but what if one day he had thoughts he shouldn't have? Lei Xiaoyu felt that she had an obligation and a responsibility to help Qinyu avoid any future mistakes he might make. She lightly coughed and said, "Big Brother Qin, you have just arrived, so there must be many things you need to sort out. As for the preparations for the servants, let me help you. Don't worry, I've done this before, and I have experience." I'm sure you will be satisfied with the people I choose." Chinyu glanced at her and secretly shook his head. This girl's little thoughts couldn't be hidden from him. Since she was willing, he would let her do as she pleased. In any case, Chinyu had never had any thoughts about this to begin with. "All right then, I'll have to trouble senior apprentice sister." Lei Xiaoyu's face flushed red. Her helpless appearance was extremely cute. "Big brother Qin, you can't call me that in the future. In the peach garden, let's talk alone." As she spoke, she ran out. Chinyu laughed out loud. This girl couldn't even take a joke. But in the future, he wouldn't be able to run away from calling her senior apprentice sister. After all, in the peach garden Holy Lands, there were still some rules to follow. Thinking of this, Chinyu's smile stiffened. He rubbed his nose. In the past, he never imagined that there would be a day when he would have to call Lei Xiaoyu senior apprentice sister. TSK. Thinking about this matter, it really was a bit embarrassing. But soon, Chinyu tossed aside this awkwardness. Since this was the truth, there was no point in thinking about it any further. Chinyu closed his eyes and began to recall everything that Lei Xiaoyu had told him. She had told him many times that the peach garden was different from the outside world and that the honorable master, senior apprentice brothers, and senior apprentice sisters all got along well with each other. Today's experiences had made Chinyu feel relaxed and different. But this didn't mean that he truly believed her. In the world, what one saw might not necessarily be true, much less what one heard from others. Although Chinyu believed that Lei Xiaoyu wouldn't lie to him, this girl was simple to begin with. What she saw might not necessarily be true. In short, Chinyu needed to verify and make his own judgment before he could decide how to position the people of the peach garden. He thought back several times and drew a vague image of the people of the peach garden in his mind, placing down several temporary labels. All that was left was to constantly enrich them in the future and then delete or replace the labels. Schwa! Chinyu opened his eyes and took several steps forward. He pushed open the door and entered the room. Without much effort, he found the booklet that Lei Xiaoyu had mentioned, the one that recorded how to earn contribution points. The contents were indeed very detailed. As he flipped through the pages, he could see a thick book of words. Chinyu was pleasantly surprised. He was only worried that he didn't understand enough. So how could he think that the booklet was too complicated? He sat down and carefully flipped through the entire booklet. When he closed the last page, Chinyu let out a long breath. Just as the yard owner had said, there were many ways to earn contribution points. There were hundreds of ways recorded in this booklet alone. For instance, the cleaning method mentioned before. The peach garden had peach trees. This wasn't nonsense, but a fact. Not only did they exist, but there were many of them. Enveloped by the aura of a true saint's great Tao, they bloomed all year round. This caused layers upon layers of peach blossoms to fall on the ground. These things had absorbed a trace of a saint's aura. Although it was incomparably weak, it wasn't something that ordinary cultivators could handle. The disciples of the peach garden had obtained peach blossom marks and were recognized by the peach garden. Thus, the task of cleaning up the fallen peach blossoms was mostly done by them. Of course, this wasn't a good job. Not only did it take up a lot of time, but the contribution points it gave were far too low. Basically, no one wanted to do it, so everyone drew straws to see their luck. In comparison, searching for precious materials, hunting powerful monsters, helping their masters refine items, or even cultivating new peach trees would give far more contribution points. So, where should he start earning contribution points? Chinyu pondered. Chapter 1209. The old turtle didn't continue to make things difficult for Chinyu. According to what he said, "Master, please don't be angry. I wasn't sure just what sort of person you were before, so I held back. In the endless sea, in order to catch a spirit body for me, I caused Master to suffer and almost lost his life. I was so touched that I couldn't accept it. You are such a good master, so I have to hold onto your thigh and never let go. I will tell you everything I know, so that master's cultivation can be smooth sailing. In short, it was all sorts of flattery and flattery. At the same time, he regretted his previous actions. If it weren't for Qin Yu's impatience, then with the old turtle's attitude, it wouldn't have been a problem for him to speak for another 3 days and 3 nights. Shut up. If you have something to say, then say it. Thus, the old turtle began to speak about the opposition between light and darkness, the relationship between the evolution of the world source and the rules of the world, and so on. Qin Yu's eyes brightened. At this moment, he suddenly realized why the little blue lamp had always regarded the old turtle with such importance. In the dark abyss, the little blue lamp had likely known that Qin Yu would rush into the icy sea and die 9 times out of 10, so it had tacitly approved of his actions. All of this was to smoothly bring the old turtle back to the vast young world. Perhaps he already knew the true value of the old turtle. The source of the world was too far away, so he couldn't talk about it for now. But the matter of light and darkness as one was the greatest problem that Qin Yu was currently facing. Although he had already grasped light and darkness and had comprehended the transformation between light and darkness as one, comprehending it didn't mean he could completely grasp the strength contained within. If Qin Yu wanted to completely control the power of light and darkness by himself, then disregarding whether or not he could reach such a degree, even if he could, he would still need to spend a massive amount of time. But if he had the guidance of the old turtle, then there was a chance that the situation would be completely different. Anyone could speak empty words. Qin Yu would at most believe 30% or 20% of it. Unless the old turtle was tired of living, there was no way he would lie to him about this. But this was still an important matter. Only by personally verifying it could he be sure. The truth was that the old turtle wasn't lying. He did know a great deal. Qin Yu began to cultivate faster. Contribution points were important, but in Qin Yu's eyes, they weren't as important as the guidance of the old turtle. Without accident, if he concentrated on cultivating for a period of time, his strength would inevitably rise by leaps and bounds. Putting everything else aside, as long as Qin Yu could fully master the integration of light and darkness, he could easily crush a God-state warrior. The God realm included the original spirit realm. According to the old turtle, the God realm was the God realm. Why did it have so many twists and turns? Those who couldn't see the sea were trash. Those who could see the sea but couldn't enter it were even more trash. Only those who stepped into the sea and began their journey to the unknown shore could be considered as the number 1 figure in the world. Of course, he could barely be considered a top-notch figure. The old turtle's words were boastful, enough to suffocate tens of thousands of people to death. But Qin Yu didn't have the mood to care whether or not he was boasting. Like a dry sponge, he absorbed the narration from the old tortoise ravenously. Every time he solved a problem and understood a link, he would feel that he was suddenly enlightened and that he could see the sun after all the clouds had been dispelled. When Qin Yu first entered the peach garden, he plunged into the sea of cultivation, not willing to leave. In this sort of situation, it was far too troublesome to find all sorts of methods to earn contribution points. He didn't even have enough time to cultivate, so where would he have the mind to do anything else? During the intervals between cultivation, Qin Yu began to have a headache. This was because living in the peach garden also required contribution points. That's right. This rule alone clearly explained the saying that the peach garden didn't raise idlers. The booklet had detailed records. The peach garden was the place where the master of the peach garden forged his Tao and was protected by the great Tao of the saints. It was a heavenly paradise in itself. Ordinary cultivators would cry and kowtow, but they still wouldn't be able to enter. The disciples of the peach garden lived here every day, so they naturally had to pay a price for this. Luckily, the required contribution points weren't too high. Qin Yu thought about it and discovered that clearing out the peach blossoms earned him enough contribution points. He was overjoyed. Clearing out the peach blossoms was great. He didn't need to expend any energy at all. In fact, he could even cultivate the power of light and darkness while clearing out the peach blossoms. Of course, it would affect him a little, but this was undoubtedly the best choice he could make. The only problem was that clearing out the peach blossoms, according to the rules of the peach garden, was decided by each disciple by drawing lots. In other words, if Chinyu wanted to cultivate in peace, he had to find a way to change this rule and take on the task of clearing out the peach blossoms by himself. He had to do it. Chinyu immediately contacted his two senior apprentice brothers. Fifth and Sixth, Iron Mountain and Earth Traveler, soon rushed over. The two of them were ordered by their eldest senior apprentice brother to take care of their youngest junior apprentice brother, so they didn't dare to neglect their duties. Of course, they were also worried that their youngest junior apprentice brother had encountered an accident and needed their help. When they first arrived, the two of them looked Chinyu up and down several times. They discovered that his arms and legs were fine, and he wasn't bruised or swollen. He didn't look like what they had expected. How should he put it? Chinyu was sure that he could sense surprise, relief, and even a little disappointment in their eyes. Speaking of which, Chinyu could accept surprise and relief. But what the hell was disappointment? These two senior apprentice brothers were too unreliable. As if sensing something, Iron Mountain coughed lightly and smiled. Youngest junior apprentice brother, what business do you have with us? This smile, this warm gaze, and this tall and sturdy body made one feel an overwhelming sense of security. It was so warm that it couldn't be any warmer. But after witnessing his fifth senior apprentice brother's flirtatious actions, you wouldn't be fooled by his appearance. This person had many tricks up his sleeves. Compared to him, sixth senior apprentice brother looked clever, but the truth was that he was constantly tricked. However, according to Lei Xiaoyu, sixth senior apprentice brother and fifth senior apprentice brother had a close relationship, and they were basically inseparable. Could it be that fifth senior apprentice brother had masochistic tendencies? Otherwise, they would have already fallen out with each other, and it wouldn't have been too much to fight. He was overthinking things. Chinyu gathered his thoughts. He cupped his hands together and bowed. Greetings, senior apprentice brothers. I took the liberty to invite you here today because there is something I would like to discuss with you. He thought for a moment and discovered that there really wasn't a good excuse for this matter. Perhaps it would be better to speak frankly. Facing fifth and sixth senior apprentice brothers' eyes, Chinyu continued to say, "It's like this. When I was in the Endless Sea, I had some harvests and I need to concentrate on cultivating for a period of time. But living in the garden also requires contribution points. I don't want to take on other missions in order to avoid delaying my time. Thus, I would like to discuss with my senior apprentice brothers and sisters and have them hand over the task of cleaning up the peach blossoms to me." Tu Xing let out an sound. "I see." He dragged out his words and his eyes turned. "Junior apprentice brother, you should know that in our garden there are some rules that we follow. It isn't good to suddenly change something that has already been agreed upon." Iron Mountain slapped him. With a dull thud, the thin and withered sixth senior apprentice brother suddenly became even shorter. "Junior apprentice brother, if you are willing to take over, then cleaning up the peach blossoms is a good thing. Don't play around with this matter. Don't forget, junior apprentice, Sister Chi hates this matter the most. If you mess things up and she gets beaten up, don't blame me for not reminding you today." Tu Xing shrunk his neck. He dryly laughed and said, "Fifth senior apprentice brother, what are you saying? I didn't mean that at all. You are just too narrow-minded." He pulled out his foot from the soil and slapped his chest in guarantee. "Junior apprentice brother, rest assured. This is the first time you have asked me to do something, so I will definitely do it for you. In the future, cleaning up the peach blossoms will be left to you alone." You cupped his hands across his chest. "Thank you, sixth senior apprentice brother." Then he smiled at Iron Mountain and nodded to express his thanks. Things really went smoothly. It was unknown what the fifth and sixth senior apprentice brothers said to each other, but after learning that their new junior apprentice brother had taken the initiative to take on the task of cleaning up the peach blossoms, the senior apprentice brothers and senior apprentice sisters were satisfied. On this day, Qin Yu was cleaning up the peach blossoms. On the surface, his movements seemed calm and natural, but his eyes were in an absent-minded state. He was only mechanically cleaning up. Suddenly, a fragrant wind blew past him. It smelled too good, so good that even the absent-minded Qin Yu was drawn back to reality. When he looked up, he saw that at some unknown time, a beautiful woman had appeared in front of him. She wore an exquisite and gorgeous white dress, and her red lips were moist and alluring. She was looking at him with great interest, her face full of smiles. Everyone loved beauty, and Qin Yu was no exception. As a man with a normal sexual orientation and physiology, it was inevitable that his mind would wander for a moment and his eyes would pause for a moment. Thus, the smile on the beautiful woman's face became increasingly brilliant. It was clear that she enjoyed Qin Yu's reaction. Junior apprentice brother is truly extraordinary. Even something as dull and boring as cleaning up the peach blossoms can be done with such rapt attention. It seems you really like it. If so, then I, your senior apprentice sister, can rest assured. If I didn't personally come and take a look, I would have felt a bit guilty. Qin Yu immediately responded. He cupped his hands together and bowed. Qin Yu greets seventh senior apprentice sister. There were 3 female disciples in the peach blossom garden. There was no need to mention Peach Girl and Lei Xiaoyu, but the one in front of him was the mysterious 7th senior apprentice sister who was said to have a different beautiful face every time she appeared. The 7th senior apprentice sister smiled. Be a good boy. If anyone dares to bully you in the future, just say my name and I will protect you. That's right. Senior apprentice sister's name is Kai Sang. Isn't that a nice name? Remember it well. She waved her hand. The 7th senior apprentice sister, who was called Kai Sang, turned and left. Her figure was even more enchanting, so beautiful that it would cause a nosebleed. It seemed that the reason she came here was just to see Qin Yu. Once she saw him, she would feel at ease, and then she could leave. She came and went without leaving anything behind. Well, it wasn't as if she didn't obtain anything. At the very least, Qin Yu had inexplicably been shrouded by a big shot. From the conversation between 5th senior apprentice brother and 6th senior apprentice brother, it wasn't difficult to draw a conclusion. Although she was ranked towards the back, the 7th senior apprentice sister was definitely a powerful figure amongst the disciples of the Peach Blossom Garden. The second to arrive was Lei Xiaoyu. Well, to be more precise, after the 7th senior apprentice sister left, she welcomed the 8th senior apprentice sister. What a painful realization! Lei Xiaoyu's eyes widened as she stared at Qin Yu, a puzzled expression on her face. Big brother Qin, just what are you thinking? Why do you want to accept all the missions to clean up peach blossoms? I already left a message for you in my booklet. No one likes to do this sort of thing, and the contribution points given are too few. It's simply a waste of time. Qin Yu smiled. I have to cultivate during this period of time, so I really don't have time to do anything else. Moreover, I just joined the Peach Blossom Garden, so helping out my senior apprentice brothers and sisters with some tasks is also a good way to leave a good impression. Big brother Qin, you don't need to do this. I already told you that the senior apprentice brothers and sisters in the garden are easy to get along with, so you don't need to do this. As she spoke, she tried to pull him back. Lei Xiaoyu bit her lips and said, Let's go. I will bring you to find my senior apprentice brothers and sisters and explain things to them. We can't delay your cultivation. Qin Yu pulled her back, his smile undiminished. Xiaoyu, I really did this voluntarily. No senior apprentice brother or sister forced me, so don't think too much about it. He looked at the peach blossoms on the tree and then at the thick layer of flower petals covering the ground. His tone became even more leisurely. The peach trees of the peach blossom garden are all stained with Master's holy Tao aura. Cleaning up these fallen flowers is also a way for me to approach Master's great Tao. It is also a kind of cultivation. Pa! Pa! Amidst the applause, Bai Feng appeared with a smile. As she looked at Qin Yu, her eyes were full of praise. Junior apprentice brother is so young, yet you are able to understand the principles of cultivation. It's no wonder you have your current cultivation. Qin Yu and Lei Xiaoyu bowed. Greetings, third senior apprentice brother. You may rise. Bai Feng nodded. She turned to look at the little black snake that was crawling on her shoulder, twisting left and right in discomfort. She revealed a helpless smile and said, Azure Dragon, junior apprentice brother Qin Yu, wholeheartedly cultivates. So how could he possibly bully you? You must be overthinking things. Remember to be close to junior apprentice brother Qin Yu in the future, and don't stir up any more trouble. The shrunken Azure Dragon felt extremely wronged. You didn't even ask me anything. So how do you know he didn't bully me? And what did those last words mean? Stir up trouble? Who stirred up trouble? It wanted to shout out loud and call Qin Yu out to confront it, and have Qin Yu say whether or not he had struck its head with his finger. But for some unknown reason, as soon as the Azure Dragon saw Qin Yu, it felt flustered. It knew that with Bai Feng here, Qin Yu wouldn't dare to touch it, but it still felt flustered. The Azure Dragon's heart was filled with sorrow. Could it be that it was actually a trash dragon that bullied the weak and feared the strong? Otherwise, how could it be like this? Lei Xiaoyu glared at the Azure Dragon, who was still immersed in sorrow. Feeling her glare, the Azure Dragon became even more distressed. Did this surname Qin know some sorcery? Why was it that as soon as he arrived, Lei Xiaoyu was no longer close to it, and even Bai Feng's attitude had changed? If it was sad, it would never love again. Then it would turn into shards of glass and scatter into the icy cold bottom of the lake, never to see the light of day again. The Azure Dragon, who was filled with bitterness, didn't have time to continue feeling sorry for itself before it was grabbed by Lei Xiaoyu. Lei Xiaoyu smiled and said, If third senior apprentice brother came to look for Qin, junior apprentice brother, there must be something. I will bid my farewells first. Lei Xiaoyu's face flushed red. She didn't dare to look at Qin Yu's face and hurriedly left with the Azure Dragon. Bai Feng chuckled. This little girl Xiaoyu is becoming increasingly clever. But the reason I came here today is because there is something I would like to ask junior apprentice brother about. As he spoke to her, he blinked. So, junior apprentice brother, don't misunderstand. I really didn't bring the Azure Dragon here to seek revenge. Chapter 12:10. Qin Yu nearly choked on his own saliva. What was the meaning of this third senior apprentice brother's words? Was he trying to subtly remind him that the truth was that he had come here to seek revenge? Looking at Bai Feng in front of him, his smile was pure and warm, but Qin Yu still felt that something wasn't right. His thoughts raced several times, and he decided that he wouldn't bully the Azure Dragon anymore. This fellow was really doted on. There was no need to make himself uncomfortable. Qin Yu lightly coughed and changed the topic. He put down the tools he used to clean up the peach blossoms. May I ask why third senior apprentice brother is here? Bai Feng blinked her eyes. I heard that in order to celebrate junior apprentice brother moving into his new residence, junior apprentice sister gave him a bag of good tea. Qin Yu gestured with his hand. I don't understand much about the tea ceremony. Third senior apprentice brother came just in time. Let's have a taste together. Ha ha ha, then I won't be polite. After returning to the small courtyard, they sat down according to the host and guest. Qin Yu quickly brewed a cup and poured a cup for each of them. Third senior brother, please. Bai Feng picked it up and sniffed it. Then she took a few sips and let out a long breath. Top-notch fog dragon tea. It's indeed enjoyable. Looking at his appearance, he was really enjoying it, and he wasn't faking it. Chinyu smiled and rubbed his nose. Third senior apprentice brother is a true connoisseur. You were able to taste the origin of this tea with a single sip. As for me, I can't. I just think it tastes good. Leaving this fog dragon tea in my hands is a waste of time. I'll give the rest to senior apprentice brother. Bai Feng waved her hand. How could I take something that junior sister gave me? Besides, it's good to drink such top-grade tea, leaves once or twice to satisfy one's craving. If I really get used to drinking it for a period of time, it'll be really uncomfortable if I run out of stock. I don't have the guts to open my mouth and ask Master for it. In our garden, only junior sister has the guts. She knew that Master wouldn't be willing to part with it, but she still pretended to be stupid and took it. Chinyu was sure that this man wasn't pretending to decline. He thought for a moment and then said, Third senior apprentice brother, if you like it, then drink some more. Bai Feng put down the teacup. 1 cup is enough. He looked at Chinyu. Whether it was his eyes or his tone, they were both magnanimous and magnanimous. Junior apprentice brother, on the first day you entered the peach garden, I told you that I wanted to discuss the space laws with you. After a pause, a bitter smile appeared on his face. Of course, calling it a discussion is a bit unworthy of its name. After all, I'm just a beginner at most. In fact, I'm here to learn from junior brother and see if he can help me avoid detours. Chinyu's heart skipped a beat. What was going on? How precious was the law of space? Such a thing was not something that could be casually taken out. I thought that I was just trying to strike up a conversation back then, but who knew that you would take it for real? Isn't this third senior brother a little too impolite? However, looking at his actions and demeanor, it was obvious that he wasn't embarrassed at all, as if it was only natural for him to do so. Was this the atmosphere in the garden? Chinyu hesitated. Not to mention how precious the space laws were, the key point was that he had no idea how to awaken them. After all, he had cultivated the azure finger and transformed step by step before finally awakening the power of space. If he wanted to say anything, he wouldn't be able to come up with anything useful. If he refused, wouldn't he anger third senior brother? According to Lei Xiaoyu, their honorable master didn't care about mundane matters. Eldest senior apprentice brother was in seclusion all year round, and second senior apprentice brother didn't come home. As for the affairs of the garden, they were basically managed by third senior apprentice brother. In other words, third senior apprentice brother was currently the one in charge of the peach garden. In the Saint Tao right, even if third senior apprentice brother had the authority, he still wouldn't dare to do anything. But if he really did offend him, there would definitely be a way to make fun of him. For a time, Chinyu was caught in a dilemma. As he was hesitating, Bai Feng suddenly clapped her hands, a look of understanding on her face. I was negligent. Junior apprentice brother just came to the peach garden and didn't know what was going on. It was my fault. The cultivation of us peach garden disciples has never been a secret. As long as it doesn't involve our own privacy, we will tell everyone. Helping our fellow disciples cultivate is one of the rules that Honorable Master set down long ago. Of course, we don't do it for free. Contribution points are a good method of payment. Bai Feng smiled. She suddenly stepped on the ground and said, Sixth senior apprentice brother, it's quite stuffy underground. Come out and let's talk. Earth elementals, head popped out from the ground. He rubbed his hands together in embarrassment. Hee, I'm just too embarrassed to show myself. After all, I haven't even touched upon the threshold of the space laws. As he spoke, he cupped his hands together and bowed to third senior apprentice brother. Then he greeted Chinyu. Junior apprentice brother. Third senior apprentice brother is right. If you don't feel at ease, you can ask your protector. He also knows. Without needing Chinyu to ask, he could feel it through the peach blossom mark. He could sense the fluctuations of thought coming from the peach tree in front of him. It was vague, but it was enough for Chinyu to understand its meaning. It was actually like this. The old turtle suddenly said, Master, there is no need to feel awkward. In truth, this isn't anything at all. At this time there was a knock on the door. After hearing the old turtle say a few words, Chinyu thought for a moment and stood up to open the door. Outside the door, Iron Mountain had a simple and honest smile on his face. "Junior apprentice brother, I took the liberty to disturb you. I would like to ask for a cup of fog dragon tea from you." Senior apprentice brother 5th and brother 6th, they really were inseparable. Chinyu reached out a hand and invited him in, but he didn't close the door. He turned to Bai Feng and said, "Third senior apprentice brother, I fear that the senior apprentice brothers and sisters in the garden are all interested in the space laws. How about calling everyone here today so that I can explain it to them together?" That's right, Chinyu was prepared to take out the supernatural art, the Azure Finger. Giving it to one person was one thing. Giving it to a group was also one thing. The reason he called everyone here was to earn a favor in person. Cough, cough. Didn't Bai Feng just say that exchanging cultivation experiences wasn't free of charge? Although Chinyu had decided to temporarily postpone earning contribution points, the truth was that there was no such thing as too much. Of course, before making this decision, Chinyu had communicated with the old turtle, so he had a general idea of what was going on. According to the old turtle, the Azure Finger was a great supernatural art that had the mark of the space laws engraved upon it. The first person to cultivate it to large success would be able to activate this mark and naturally grasp the power of space. But that was only limited to the first person. After Chinyu obtained the power of space, the mark of space engraved upon the Azure Finger had already vanished from sight. Of course, even if it disappeared, since this supernatural art could hide the mark of space, it was naturally related to the space laws. When other cultivators cultivated it, they could more or less obtain some insights from it. As for how much they could harvest, that would depend on their own luck and talent. Bai Feng smiled. "Good. Then we'll do as little junior apprentice brother says. I will call them over now." Lei Xiaoyu was the first to arrive. It seemed that even though she said she had left, she hadn't gone too far. The concern contained in her words warmed Qin Yu's heart. He gave her a look, indicating that she didn't need to worry. The azure dragon listlessly lay on her shoulder, maintaining its previous shrunken state. It seemed that it had likely been reprimanded. 7th senior apprentice sister was the second to arrive. Her face had indeed changed, and even her fragrance was completely different. What was similar was that both faces were beautiful and the two fragrances were equally enticing. She first bowed to 3rd senior apprentice brother and then smiled at Chinyu. "Little junior apprentice brother, you're too kind. I've taken advantage of you today, but from now on I will truly protect you." What was the meaning of this? It seemed that everything she said before was just to brush him off. Chinyu was left speechless for a moment. He cupped his hands together in thanks, but it seemed that 7th senior apprentice sister's deterrence wasn't small at all. Hearing her say that she would protect Chinyu, 3rd senior apprentice brother subconsciously glanced at her and then at Chinyu. Iron Mountain patted Earth Exalt's shoulder. With several loud bangs, half of Earth Exalt's body was forcefully smashed into the dirt. "Old 6th, hurry up and put away any thoughts of revenge. Otherwise, if you provoke 7th senior apprentice sister's anger, no one will be able to save you." Earth Exalt clenched his teeth. He thought to himself, "I thank you for reminding me. If it weren't for you blatantly spouting nonsense, who would know of this matter? I won't lose face even if I give up." As for now, of course it was ho-ho-ho. 7th senior apprentice, Sister Kai, sang narrowed her beautiful eyes, her lips curling up in a charming smile. "I heard that 6th senior apprentice brother fell to little junior apprentice brother's hands on the first day he arrived? This is big news. Is the dignified senior apprentice brother of the Peach Blossom Gardens 6th senior apprentice brother looking for trouble with little junior apprentice brother?" Earth Exalt's face turned green. He waved his hand and said, "No, absolutely not. This is all senior apprentice brother Iron Mountain's petty heart." Iron Mountain foolishly smiled and didn't speak. He clearly had an attitude of, whatever you say, I won't argue with you. Peach Girl's arrival ended the atmosphere in the small courtyard. Bai Feng was startled for a moment before she stood up to welcome her. She smiled and said, Junior Apprentice, Sister Peach Girl, you actually came? It seems that little Junior Apprentice brother's face is greater. Kai Sang and the others all restrained their auras and bowed respectfully. Greetings, fourth Senior Apprentice Sister. Their appearance was like a mouse seeing a cat. Qin Yu followed everyone in bowing. He was secretly surprised. He had heard Lei Xiaoyu mention some matters regarding Peach Girl, but he never imagined that she would have such a deterrent effect. Looking at the situation, it didn't seem to be because she was the garden master's first wife's daughter. Peach Girl had an indifferent expression. She swept her eyes over everyone and said, Rise. Then she nodded towards third Senior Apprentice brother as a response. In truth, she hadn't said a single word, but everyone else was different. They were all used to this and didn't seem dissatisfied at all. Bai Feng smiled. In recent years, this is the first time that the disciples of our peach garden have gathered together. Elder Senior Apprentice brother and second Senior Apprentice brother have already comprehended the space laws, so it doesn't matter whether they come or not. Then, let's not delay any longer. She nodded towards Qin Yu. Little Junior Apprentice brother, I'll leave the rest to you. Qin Yu controlled himself as much as possible. He didn't look too much at Peach Girl. He walked over to the peach tree and said, Senior Apprentice brothers and Senior Apprentice sisters might not believe me, but the truth is that I don't know how I obtained the power of space. Seventh Senior Apprentice, Sister blurted out, Is it your bloodline? Her eyes brightened as she stared at Qin Yu. Peach Girl's eyebrows furrowed slightly. If one didn't look carefully, it would be hard to notice. But she was well aware that as she looked at Kai Sang's eyes, she had a strange feeling in her heart. Why was it like this? She gathered her thoughts and erased the fluctuations in her mind. Then, her expression returned to its original indifference. In the small courtyard, everyone looked at Qin Yu with surprise in their eyes. That's right, the vast young world was vast and boundless. There were trillions of lives within it, and there was no lack of geniuses amongst them. There were indeed those who were born with a bloodline that resonated with space and were able to grasp the space laws upon reaching adulthood. This sort of life form was incomparably rare, but without exception, all of them possessed an extremely potent potential for growth. Basically, as long as they smoothly lived to adulthood, they would possess tyrannical strength. Could it be that Honorable Master had suddenly accepted Junior Apprentice brother into the garden because of this? Qin Yu didn't allow his Senior Apprentice brothers and sisters to think too much about it. He shook his head and said, I am only an ordinary human. I don't have such a formidable bloodline. As he spoke to hear, he had laid the groundwork. He lifted a hand and pointed a finger forward. When this finger landed, the place where the fingertip touched immediately set off ripples. Ripples spread out in the courtyard. These spatial fluctuations had negligible killing power. The disciples of the peach garden didn't resist at all, allowing them to rush towards them. Then, all of their eyes brightened. Bai Feng's eyes were the brightest. As someone who disliked lying the most, if he said that he had crossed the threshold in the power of space, then he really had. Thus, he was able to clearly sense the fluctuations caused by Qin Yu's finger. These spatial fluctuations certainly contain the power of space. Although this seemed like nonsense, the key point was that this was because the power of space was different. What was different was that these fluctuations weren't just stimulated by a formidable strength, but they also contained a strange fluctuation. This is... Bai Feng looked at Qin Yu with surprise. Qin Yu didn't care about what he was thinking. He nodded and said, Third Senior Apprentice brother has good eyesight. In my early years, I inadvertently obtained a supernatural power called the Blue Finger. As my cultivation rose, I cultivated this supernatural power to an even higher level, finally reaching large success. It was also after this supernatural power reached large success that I suddenly comprehended the space laws and was able to control the power of space. Bai Feng revealed a look of disbelief. Then he sighed with emotion. A spatial mark. I thought it was something of legends, but I never imagined it would actually exist. Junior Apprentice Brother's luck is truly deep. This is why he was able to obtain this supernatural power in his early years. He thought about how he had painstakingly cultivated the space laws for all these years and still hadn't been able to cross the threshold. But now, Qin Yu had only cultivated a single supernatural power and had officially stepped into it. No, it wasn't just that. Anyone that could leave behind a spatial mark was definitely not an ordinary existence. After Qin Yu fused with this mark, his comprehension of the Tao of space was destined to rapidly rise. It would only slow down once he approached the level of the person who left the mark. This was what third senior apprentice brother truly envied. The courtyard was quiet. Even Bai Feng was envious. This group of people that hadn't even touched upon the threshold of the space laws were naturally even more envious. But whether it was envy or envy, from start to finish, there was nothing that made Qin Yu feel uneasy. This allowed him to relax a little. At the same time, he realized what Lei Xiaoyu had said. The peach garden was truly different from the outside. Kai Sang suddenly blinked. Junior Apprentice Brother, did you call us here today to teach us this blue finger supernatural power? Qin Yu nodded. Yes. Kai Sang covered her mouth and smiled, her face bright and beautiful. Junior Apprentice Brother, 7th Senior Apprentice Sister, is liking you more and more. Everyone was overjoyed. If the blue finger was able to contain a spatial mark, then it inevitably contained the mysteries of space. After cultivating it, it would be greatly beneficial to comprehending the space laws. Peach Girl suddenly said, "The blue finger is precious. Have you thought about the price?" After speaking, she didn't look at anyone else. She pushed open the door and left. Chapter 12:11. Humph. Peach Maiden is right. Your junior apprentice brother's supernatural power is indeed precious. A calm voice suddenly sounded out. The disciples of Peach Garden were startled. They quickly stood up and bowed. "Greetings, teacher." The air was quiet, and there was no response. Everyone waited for a moment to determine that the honorable master had withdrawn his thoughts before standing up. Fine. With Peach Maiden's reminder and their honorable master's personal endorsement, Qin Yu really would have to pay a high price for the blue finger. But at this time, no one felt dissatisfied. Instead, joy appeared in their eyes. Although their honorable master was a bit of a person sometimes, his strong point was that he was a dignified, true saint and wouldn't casually open his mouth. Since he said that the blue finger was precious, then it was certainly precious. After cultivating it, the assistance it would provide in perceiving the space laws would be far greater than they imagined. After a short discussion, Bai Feng reported a number. After Qin Yu heard this, he suddenly regretted it. If he knew that he could earn contribution points like this, why would he have accepted the mission to clean up the peach blossoms? He left behind a massive amount of contribution points and sent his senior apprentice brothers and sisters away. Then he seriously considered the possibility of not cleaning up the peach blossoms. After hesitating again and again, he suppressed this idea. According to the rules of Peach Garden, as long as one had enough contribution points, they could stay in Peach Garden and eat their fill until they died. But as long as one accepted the mission, unless they faced an irresistible factor, they could only brace themselves and complete it. Whatever, there was no need to take such risks. He wasn't familiar with Peach Garden, so it was best to be careful. Following this, Qin Yu's life was completely peaceful. Perhaps it was because everyone was perceiving the blue finger, but no one came to disturb him. Even Lei Xiaoyu, who had said she would come to speak with Qin Yu, disappeared without a trace. Qin Yu was happy to be in peace. Every day, Besides taking time out to clean up the peach blossoms, he would immerse himself in cultivation. The more he listened to the old turtle's explanation, the more Chinyu rejoiced. Luckily, he had listened to the little blue lamp's suggestion and taken the risk of bringing the old turtle back to the vast young world. This fellow was simply an encyclopedia of cultivation. At least in the aspect of light and darkness, he only needed to think about any question Chinyu asked, and he would quickly give an answer. Not only was the answer fast, but it was also brilliant. Every time Chinyu answered, Chinyu felt as if he had been enlightened. His light and darkness cultivation made rapid progress. That was not all. What the old tortoise knew was not limited to the fusion of light and darkness. To be more precise, cultivating the power of light and darkness required a very wide range of knowledge. It was like an intricate and complicated question. Knowing only one aspect of knowledge was obviously not enough. One had to master all aspects in order to solve it step by step and finally get the correct answer. To Chinyu, cultivating the powers of light and darkness was the same as solving an incomparably complex problem. The road ahead was long and filled with endless clouds and fog, but the feeling of making progress every day and overcoming these difficulties was incomparably wonderful. Compared to the matters between men and women, this made Chinyu feel even more delighted and infatuated, almost to the point of being unable to extricate himself. Towards Chinyu's cultivation drive, the old turtle was secretly flabbergasted. He thought that the disparity between a normal person and a cultivation maniac was like the distance between the sun and the moon. It was simply unimaginable, but he still had to admire Chinyu. With Chinyu's age and achievements, it was rare for him to maintain such a firm and intense will to cultivate. Lei Xiaoyu finally came, but she didn't say too many words to Chinyu before hurriedly leaving, saying that she was at a critical juncture in her cultivation. The reason she came here was to hand over the servant she had chosen to Chinyu. Originally, this matter should have been completed long ago, but Lei Xiaoyu had been cultivating and had completely forgotten about it. Now that she finally remembered, she hurriedly sent the servant over. No more, no less, 100 people. All of them were men. Chinyu's lips twitched. He thought that this little girl was quite ruthless. Although he didn't have any other thoughts, when he saw a beautiful girl, wasn't it a bit more pleasing to the eye? Whatever. In any case, in his current state, besides cultivating, he was cleaning up peach blossoms. Even if a celestial immortal were in front of him, he still wouldn't be able to divert his attention. "Greetings, Mr. Ninth." 100 servants bowed in greeting. Chinyu nodded. "As for what needs to be done, do as you see fit. Just don't disturb my cultivation." With these words, he waved his hand and sent them away. The servants of the peach garden were indeed very good. Or it could be said that they were very diligent in their work. Chinyu's days became increasingly relaxed. Besides cultivating and cleaning up peach blossoms, there were other trivial matters that didn't need any orders to be taken care of. Moreover, the servants clearly remembered Chinyu's instructions on the first day. Unless he spoke, no one dared to approach him on their own initiative. However, Chinyu discovered a small secret hidden amongst these servants. There was a woman hidden among them. She had an exquisite concealment technique. If it weren't for the old turtle reminding him, Chinyu would have been immersed in his cultivation and wouldn't have noticed her. This discovery left Chinyu speechless. He thought that Lei Xiaoyu had painstakingly chosen 100 large men to be his servants, but he never imagined that there would be a loophole that someone would exploit. However, this was it. It was only a woman. As long as she behaved herself, Chinyu would pretend that he didn't know anything. But as his thoughts raced, he tossed this matter to the side. He didn't even have enough time to cultivate, so how could he have any spare thoughts to think about anything else? But just because Chinyu wasn't willing to waste time didn't mean that things would develop according to his will. This woman, mixed in with a group of large men, indeed had ulterior motives. But what she wanted wasn't to seduce Chinyu and climb into his bed, but to take his life. Around Qin Yu, darkness and light were suddenly released, forming two streams of energy that instantly condensed into a domain. The servant that broke into this domain struggled with all his might, but he couldn't move at all. Qin Yu awoke from his cultivation. He frowned as he looked at the servant in front of him. He immediately recognized that this was the woman that had mixed in. With killing intent in her heart, she actually caused the light and darkness domain to automatically activate to protect her master. It seemed that he had underestimated this woman's methods. "You want to kill me?" Qin Yu slowly said. "Why?" The woman's concealment technique was broken through by the light and darkness domain, revealing her original appearance. It was indeed pleasing to the eye. But even if she were 10 times more beautiful, it wouldn't change the fact that she wanted to kill Qin Yu. Although she had been thoroughly suppressed before she could do anything, the essence of the matter wouldn't change. With Qin Yu's personality, he wouldn't show any mercy to anyone that wanted to kill him, no matter who they were. The reason he kept her alive for questioning was because he wanted to find the reason. When he first entered Peach Garden, he couldn't think of a reason why this woman wanted to kill him. After all, Qin Yu had no grudge with the people of Peach Garden, nor did he have any connection with them. Something was wrong. Qin Yu's eyes suddenly exploded with a sharp light. He thought back to before he entered Myriad Soul Dao. There was a disciple of Peach Garden named Shang Lingyue among Eastern Zhou Chali's followers. Could it be related to him? "I want to kill you because you deserve to die." The woman's eyes were filled with hate. Knowing that she would die, she fiercely glared at Qin Yu. "This sort of resentful gaze," Qin Yu said. "You know Shang Lingyue?" As the woman heard this name, she struggled even more fiercely. "Yes. I want to take revenge for Big Brother Shang." You killed him. Qin Yu had a calm expression. "He did die by my hands. I don't deny this, but how do you know?" The woman screamed. "Big Brother Shang is a secret disciple of Peach Garden, and his aura has already been recorded by Peach Garden. Of course, I know you killed him. And it's not just me who knows. Everyone else knows. But why would the Garden Master and the other teachers allow a murderer like you to live?" Her face was filled with madness and cruelty. No matter how beautiful her skin was, it was now twisted and ugly. "They didn't care, so I did it myself. I want to take revenge for Big Brother Shang." "You murderer, you must die." Qin Yu fell silent. He didn't think that killing Shang Lingyue was something that everyone in Peach Garden knew. It was simple. If a mere slave maid knew, then who could he hide it from? But whether it was the Garden Master or the disciples of Peach Garden, none of them mentioned this to Qin Yu. Was it because a mere secret disciple's death wasn't worth pitying, or did they already know something? Although he didn't know what it meant to have his aura recorded by Peach Garden, it at least showed that Shang Lingyue, a secret disciple, wasn't acting casually. In other words, the latter was more likely. Perhaps the Garden Master and the disciples of Peach Garden didn't mention it because they didn't want to. After all, with a saint's cultivation, it wasn't necessarily impossible for them to feel what happened to the cultivators of Peach Garden, a solemn disciple of a holy land, even if it was only a secret disciple, had actually degenerated to collude with abyssal life forms. This was an extremely disgraceful matter. Thinking of this, Qin Yu relaxed a little. His eyes fell on the woman in front of him, and he faintly said, "You should have asked others why the people of Peach Garden tacitly approved of my murder and didn't pursue it, right?" The woman's voice was shrill and shrill. "That's right. I asked the other teachers, but they didn't say anything. They only told me not to ask about this matter again. But Big Brother Shang died. He was a true genius and should have had an incomparably bright future. He should have even become Peach Garden's Miss Ninth. But he died. He was killed by you, and you stole his position. So I will kill you. I will definitely kill you and take revenge for Big Brother Shang." Qin Yu's eyes became increasingly cold. The one in front of him was only an ignorant and stupid woman. But this didn't mean that she wouldn't be responsible for her actions. This world was very fair. Before anyone did anything, they had to be prepared to bear the consequences. No one was an exception. Ignorance and stupidity weren't reasons that could be forgiven. Or, to be more ruthless, such a woman deserved to die. After all, this woman was able to activate the light and darkness domain to protect herself. Her assassination skills must be extremely terrifying. If it were someone else, they might have died in her hands without even realizing it. Wouldn't that be an injustice? Qin, you didn't have the desire to continue talking to her. I killed Shang Lingyue, but he deserved to die. No one told you the reason because his death wasn't honorable. Whether you believe it or not, you can reincarnate as a smart person in your next life. He raised his hand and pointed. The sneer and mockery on the woman's face suddenly froze and her eyes dimmed. She fell to the ground softly. Although the woman didn't seem to have any injuries, her soul had been shattered. A calm voice sounded behind him. I thought that you would spare her life. After all, strictly speaking, she was also very pitiful. Qin Yu turned around and bowed respectfully. Disciple greets master. The yard master nodded. Rise. Qin Yu stood up and paused for a moment. He said, Master, although she was indeed pitiful, there are countless pitiful people in the world. She can't be unpunished because of this. Disciple came from a humble background. Throughout my path of cultivation, I have encountered many disasters and killed many people. My hands are stained with blood. Therefore, I gradually understood the principle that forgiving the enemy is disregarding one's own life. If I want to live, I have to kill them. Whoever wants to kill Disciple, Disciple will kill him, regardless of the reason or the past. In my opinion, this has nothing to do with being cruel or not. It's just a matter of fairness. The yard master looked calm. Fairness? You should know that there is no true fairness in this world. She paused for a moment, and her tone became even more indifferent. You are a disciple of the Peach Garden, my 9th disciple. Even if this woman was killed, she was killed. Even if her family knew about this, they wouldn't dare to seek revenge on you. What if you weren't a disciple of the Peach Garden, or even a person of the Peach Garden? Killing a servant of the Peach Garden is also a crime punishable by death. Then, will you still kill her? Qin Yu didn't hesitate. He said resolutely, Kill her. The yard master glanced at him and didn't say anything. She turned around and took a step forward. Her figure disappeared. Qin Yu bowed. Farewell, master. Standing up straight, Qin Yu looked calm as he looked in the direction the yard master had left. From the very beginning, he had been warned by the old turtle that the yard master's consciousness had descended. Therefore, when he decided to kill this woman, Qin Yu had already made preparations. Faced with the yard master's question, he chose to follow his heart and gave his own answer. After all, no matter how one looked at it, it was an extremely stupid thing to hide from a saint. Of course, it was impossible to pry into a saint's heart through his expression. Qin Yu also didn't know what kind of impression his actions today would leave on the yard master. He took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. Since things had come to this, it was useless to think too much about it. He could only let it be. The death of a servant didn't cause any disturbance in the Peach Garden at all. No one paid attention to it, or even if they noticed it, they chose to remain silent. Qin Yu's life didn't change much from before. After the initial uneasiness, he once again immersed himself in cultivation. However, it was undeniable that the yard master's words had some impact on Qin Yu. Just as he had said, killing a servant of the Peach Garden was also a crime punishable by death. Not to mention Shang Lingyue, the registered disciple. If Qin Yu hadn't coincidentally become the 9th lady of the Peach Garden, he would have been inevitably hunted down by the Peach Garden. In the end, a cultivator could only rely on his own strength. If he was strong enough to be a match for a saint, who would dare to hold him accountable? The integration of light and darkness and the complete mastery of their powers were the only way for Qin Yu to rapidly improve his cultivation in a short period of time. It was the only possibility for him to fight a saint head-on. The passage of time could not be traced. Therefore, Chinyu had to cultivate. He had to cultivate even harder than before. Peach Girl pushed open the courtyard door, her expression indifferent and distant. Even when she saw the yard master in the room, her expression didn't change at all. She bowed. "Father." The yard master was all smiles. "You went to plant peach trees again? Don't work too hard. Rest when you need to." Peach Girl said lightly, "Father, is there something you need from me?" The yard master coughed softly. There's something. The old dragon in the East Sea insists on celebrating his birthday. The wedding invitations have already been sent to the yard. You know, that old dragon has liked you since you were young. He has told me several times that you must go in person." Peach Girl didn't even turn her head. "I'm not going." The yard master revealed a trace of embarrassment. "My dear daughter, I can't stand the old dragon's persistent pestering. I've already agreed. How about you go?" Looking at Peach Girl's silent back, the yard master thought for a moment. "Haven't you always liked the peach trees in the Kunlun Mountains? As long as you go this time, I'll help you get those peach trees, even if I have to throw away my dignity." Peach Girl finally turned around. "Okay." She paused, and her gaze fell on the yard master. What she meant was, "I've already agreed to go. Why are you still here?" The yard master forced a smile. "The East Sea is too far. I'm worried about you going alone. How about this? I've sent 2 wedding invitations. You can choose someone from the yard to go with you. Firstly, it'll show that we're being courteous. Secondly, he can accompany you so that you won't be lonely on the journey." Peach Girl was about to refuse, but she stopped herself. She nodded slowly. "Okay." The yard master's smile grew brighter. She placed the 2 jade archives on the table. "The invitations are here. You can choose whoever you want to go with you." He glanced at Peach Girl's expressionless face and smacked his lips. "I'll take my leave then." After the yard master left, Peach Girl's gaze fell on the 2 jade archives. Her gaze was deep, and no one knew what she was thinking. Chapter 12:12. Peach Girl's method was direct, without the slightest hesitation. She pushed open Chinyu's courtyard door. He was drinking tea under the peach tree. This was the fog dragon tea that Lei Xiaoyu had given him. It was only now that Chinyu truly understood why White Phoenix said it was precious. The reason Chinyu was able to maintain a high cultivation efficiency for such a long period of time was largely due to the fog dragon tea. It could quickly relieve the fatigue of his soul and allow him to maintain his peak condition. Thus, after cultivating for a period of time, Chinyu would quietly sit under the peach tree and drink tea. This was a rare moment of leisure. But today, this leisure was clearly broken. Chinyu stood up and bowed. "Greetings, 4th senior apprentice sister." Peach Girl still had an indifferent and distant expression, without any change from before, but Chinyu didn't know whether it was an illusion or not, but he felt that she was even colder than before. This coldness wasn't a simple sense of warmth or coldness. Rather, it was a strange feeling that involved the soul from the inside out. He couldn't explain it clearly, but it subconsciously made Chinyu feel a bit more oppressive. He furrowed his eyebrows but didn't reveal anything on his face. After he stood up, his eyes cautiously wandered over Peach Girl. She was Peach Girl, the beloved daughter of the master of the Permitha True Sage Garden. Even in the entire vast Yang world, she was the most respected existence amongst the trillions of lives. But at the same time, she was also Ningling and Yu Qi. Chinyu didn't care about Peach Girl, but he absolutely couldn't allow anything to happen to these 2 most important women in his life. Peach Girl flipped her hand and took out a jade archive. "It is the Eastern Sea Dragon Saint's birthday celebration. Come with me." After she finished speaking, she placed the jade archive on the table. Without waiting for Chinyu's response, she turned and left. Staring at the jade archive on the table, Chinyu frowned, a thoughtful look in his eyes. Why him? From the bottom of his heart, Chinyu hoped to approach Peach Girl. After all, this was the only way he could find a way to rescue Ningling and Yu Qi. But why? There were many disciples of Peach Garden. There were many who had higher cultivations than him, were more reliable, and were closer to him. For instance, senior apprentice brother White Phoenix. Although he appeared to be a modest gentleman, as long as one wasn't blind, they could see the meaning in his eyes when he looked at Peach Girl. Wouldn't it be better to invite him? There was no need to say anything. Bai Feng was currently perceiving the boundless blue finger. Qin Yu was willing to bet his neck that even if there was something 10 times more important than perceiving the boundless blue finger, as long as Peach Maiden asked, Bai Feng wouldn't hesitate at all. Peach Blossom had chosen him. Was this a test? Could it be that the yard owner had already sensed something? Qin Yu didn't dare to confirm this. His heart was heavy, so heavy that even his breathing became a bit stifled. He wasn't a coward or a weak-willed person. He was facing the true saint of the Permitha continent, the strongest existence in vast Yang, let alone moving a finger. Just a glance was enough to cause him to fall into the abyss of eternal damnation. In this situation, anyone would be afraid. Those who said they weren't afraid were either stupid, or just trying to look impressive. Cough, cough. I'm not talking about crosstalk. I'm really not. That's the main thing. However, Qin Yu soon realized that he had no choice in this matter. No matter what Peach Maiden's reason for choosing him was, he could only accept it and take it one step at a time. He picked up the Jade Archive. There was an invitation inside. The wording of the invitation was very polite, inviting the Peach Blossom Spring to attend the birthday banquet. At the bottom of the invitation was a claw print. It looked like it had been dipped in ink, and it was casually pressed onto the paper before being recorded into the Jade Archive. However, the moment Qin Yu sensed this seemingly casual claw print, he heard a distant and resonant dragon roar. His face immediately paled. He quickly retracted his divine sense and took several deep breaths. Qin Yu looked at the Jade Archive in his hand, his eyes filled with anger and a bitter smile. He had been too careless. In truth, this was a very simple matter. If he had the qualifications to send an invitation to the Peach Blossom Spring, and even had the yard owner's daughter personally congratulate him, his strength could be imagined. The Eastern Sea Dragon Sage. It was highly likely that he was a true saint who had crossed the sea and stepped onto the other shore. This also explained why a simple claw mark was able to teach him such a heavy lesson. Even now, his head was swollen with pain. But the only thing that puzzled Qin Yu was that this Eastern Sea Dragon Sage's claw seemed a bit too small. The so-called East Sea did not refer to the sea in the east, but rather the name of a great world that was completely covered in seawater. Within the vast Yang world, there were countless worlds scattered about like stars in the sky. There were large and small islands, and the disparity between them was considerable. The East Sea could probably be considered the highest level small world within the vast Yang world. This was the Dragon Sage's old lair. Suddenly, in the deepest trench of the East Sea, within the crystal wall, a pair of giant eyes opened. They were vast and boundless, as if they could contain the entire world. Peach Blossom Spring, what an interesting little fellow. He actually dared to peek at this saint seal, and more importantly, he's still alive and well after peeking at it. Let's not talk about anything else, but this shameless old thing's eyes are as vicious as ever when it comes to choosing disciples. A low and deep voice echoed deep within the trench. A sharp light flashed in the depths of the eyes that could contain the entire world. However, if there isn't an accident, this boy will soon come to my East Sea. That's hard to say. A dignified chuckle echoed deep within the trench. Thus, the surface of the East Sea, which occupied the entire world, suddenly surged with raging waves. Of course, Qin Yu didn't know that while he was still in the Peach Blossom Spring, because of a single careless action, he had been targeted by a distant old dragon. He put away the Jade Archive and waited until the point between his eyebrows no longer hurt. Then he silently calculated the time and entered seclusion without hesitation. Peach Maiden's arrival had been an accident, and it had disrupted Qin Yu's cultivation rhythm. Originally, he had hoped to steadily advance and take another step forward. But now, in a situation where he had accumulated enough, his cultivation had regressed instead of advancing. If he couldn't make a breakthrough in one go, it would inevitably become more difficult after some time passed. He could only hurry up. 11 days later, Peach Maiden stood outside the peach blossom house, her expression indifferent. There wasn't the slightest bit of impatience on her face. However, the disciples of the peach blossom spring who had rushed over to see him off were all sweating profusely as they silently prayed for their little junior brother. They couldn't believe that Qin Yu would be so bold as to make Peach Maiden wait for him. And this wait lasted for over an hour. Just as Lei Xiaoyu's nose was glistening with sweat, she decided that even if she was discovered, she had to inform Qin Yu. Finally, he arrived. I'm sorry. I forgot the time while I was cultivating and made Senior's sister wait for so long." As he spoke, Qin Yu cupped his hands apologetically. Everyone's eyes were filled with pity. Did he really think that such a perfunctory explanation would solve all of this? You're too naive." Peach Maiden nodded. Everyone's thoughts were racing as they silently mourned for Qin Yu. But when they heard this, they were stunned. What was the meaning of this? After waiting for over an hour, he just let it go like this? This was not Peach Maiden's style. Thinking of their past experiences, everyone's expressions became even more complicated. "Let's go." Peach Maiden turned and walked toward the peach blossom house. Qin Yu hurriedly nodded and bowed to the people who were sending him off. "Thank you, senior brothers and sisters, for sending me off. I'll take my leave first." Lei Xiaoyu nodded with a relaxed expression. Bai Feng looked a little sad. Sure enough, seventh senior sister had changed her face again. This time, it was a beautiful and unfamiliar face. As for the others, their faces were filled with indignation and disbelief. Seeing the expressions of everyone in the peach blossom spring, Qin Yu didn't have much time to think. He stepped into the peach blossom house behind Lei Xiaoyu. He pushed the door open and walked in. It was the same distance of one step. Suddenly, the scene in front of him changed, and a vast expanse of blue appeared in front of him. Qin Yu sighed with emotion. No wonder she was the yard master's daughter. No one else could travel in this way. She just casually pushed open the door and walked in. It was too convenient. As if sensing his thoughts, Peach Maiden said lightly, "The East Sea Dragon Sage is a true sage at the same level as the Yard Master. The East Sea is shrouded by the Great Tao. You and I can't enter directly." In other words, the vast expanse of blue in front of them wasn't the East Sea. Qin Yu cupped his hands together. Junior brother doesn't understand everything. I hope senior sister can explain it to me. Peach Maiden didn't like to talk and had a cold personality. Qin Yu naturally knew this, but even though he knew, he still had to say something. If he didn't say anything, how could he try to get closer to her? Peach Maiden frowned. She paused and said, "This is a subsidiary of the East Sea. The Dragon Sage's daughter is stationed here. She can take us to the birthday banquet." If there were disciples of the peach blossom spring here, their jaws would drop even wider if they saw the scene. It was even more shocking than Peach Maiden waiting for Qin Yu for more than an hour without losing her temper. This was because even the yard master couldn't make the cold and distant Peach Maiden speak more than a few words. If it were someone else, the eldest senior brother would be better. Even the second senior brother would be ignored. But now, Peach Maiden had actually explained everything to Qin Yu, and her explanation was very clear. It was simply unimaginable. Although Qin Yu had some contact with Peach Maiden and had heard Lei Xiaoyu talk about her, he still didn't know much about her. He didn't know that he was enjoying top-class treatment right now. Seeing Peach Maiden reply, he was overjoyed. He continued, "The Dragon Sage's daughter? Senior sister, are you familiar with her?" Peach Maiden nodded. Rumble, the water in front of them, suddenly tumbled, forming monstrous waves. Groups of shrimp soldiers and crab generals. Well, this time they were really shrimp soldiers and crab generals. In short, they looked cute and silly, but their auras were quite fierce. Where did this human cultivator come from? How dare you trespass into the territory of the dragon sage? Hurry up and leave. A fierce-looking crab spirit raised its 2 giant pincers and roared. Peach Maiden stretched out her hand, and a peach blossom appeared. Bang! The crab spirit that shouted didn't even have the time to react before it was sent flying away. Even with Chinyu's eyesight, he was just barely able to see a white shadow flash by. It seemed to be a silver tail. Shwa, a watery blue, light flashed. A petite woman with a pair of delicate dragon horns appeared in front of Peach Maiden, her face filled with pleasant surprise. Big Sister Peach Maiden, my father told me that you would come, but I didn't believe him. It's great to see you again. She reached out to hug Peach Maiden, but when she was still some distance away, she saw her in different eyes and had no choice but to stop. She revealed an embarrassed expression and pouted with some dissatisfaction. Big Sister Peach Maiden, we haven't seen each other in a long time. You didn't treat me like this before. As she spoke, her eyes swept over Chinyu, a cold light flashing in them. Although the dragon sage's eyes were hidden and the cold light flashed quickly, she still wasn't able to hide it from Chinyu's eyes. His heart skipped a beat. He thought that this time he was just sitting at home and calamity had suddenly descended from the heavens. If Peach Maiden isn't close to you, what does that have to do with me? Those eyes of hers were as sharp as knives. They were frightening. No, those eyes just now, a strange expression appeared on Chinyu's face. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. There was 30% anger, 30% fear, and the rest was a warning. That's right, it was a warning. What was it warning him about? Was it warning him not to try and approach Peach Maiden? As soon as this thought appeared, Chinyu's entire body froze. He thought that he must be tired of living. He actually dared to have such rude thoughts. Nonsense. One was the Peach Blossom Spring Master, and the other was the Eastern Sea Dragon Sage. Both of them were Permitha true saints who had lived for countless years. How was it any different from courting death to say that their daughter was that? Stop, hurry up and stop. Completely forget about this suicidal thought. Chinyu's eyelids drooped, and he tried his best to blank out his thoughts. The dragon sage's lips curled up, revealing a trace of mockery. She thought that although this pretty boy from the Peach Blossom Spring was quite good-looking, he was too timid. Peach Maiden definitely wouldn't take a liking to a man as timid as a mouse. Humph, humph, humph. The alarm was lifted. Chinyu absolutely didn't expect that his suicidal thought would actually be half correct. Big Sister Peach Maiden, I'm preparing a birthday gift for my royal father. He's liked you since he was young, so you can come and help me. Peach Maiden's expression was indifferent. I don't have time. Don't be like this, Big Sister Peach Maiden. I'm very fast, and I won't take up too much of your time. Just help me, okay? I'm leaving. Peach Maiden turned and left. In the blink of an eye, the dragon sage blocked Chinyu's path. Her speed was so fast that Chinyu's eyes twitched. Okay. I'll choose my own gift. You can rest here for a while, and then we'll go to the Eastern Sea together. Peach Maiden glanced at her and nodded. The Dragon Lady's Dragon Palace was located at the bottom of the sea. The so-called golden splendor was no longer enough to describe the magnificence of this palace. All sorts of treasures were embedded into the ground, the pillars, and the walls as if they didn't cost anything. It was a dazzling sight. The only place that Chinyu had ever seen that could compare to this place was the goo refining urn-like residence that the spirit bodies had prepared in the land of chaos. After Peach Maiden entered the Dragon Palace, her status and treatment were even higher than in the Peach Garden. Everyone had smiles on their faces, and their eyes were filled with flattery. Unfortunately, Chinyu's treatment was at the other extreme. He was thrown into a guest room and even warned not to go out. It seemed that this dragon lady was greatly favored by the Eastern Sea Dragon Sage. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to treat the new Miss Ninth of the Peach Garden like this. Thinking about it, if it weren't for the Dragon Sage's favor, the dragon lady wouldn't have the qualifications to be so close to the daughter of the Peach Garden's first wife. Since he was already here, he might as well take things as they come. Qin Yu's mentality was quite good, and after he guessed that the dragon lady might have an abnormal sexual orientation, he understood her actions even more. In order to avoid provoking the dragon lady and causing unnecessary trouble, it was better to stay in the room. This way, he would have more time to consolidate his cultivation. After all, if he took this hurried step forward, although there wouldn't be too many hidden dangers, there would still be some problems. He would cultivate, and when it was time to leave, someone would naturally come to call him. Well, Peach Maiden had personally chosen him to go with her, so she shouldn't have forgotten about him here, right? Peach was sitting in a guest room. She was looking at the Dragon Palace's extravagant buildings, but she wasn't focusing on anything else. Calling Qin Yu out was her own decision. But what happened after she called him out? Peach Girl couldn't help but admit that she was indeed someone who wasn't good at communicating with others. She didn't seem to have any good methods to obtain answers from Qin Yu, but there should be something wrong with him. Although Qin Yu's gaze was very vague, it didn't escape her senses. Just what secret was Qin Yu hiding? Was this secret related to the entanglement of Qi that her father had told her about? There was a knock on the door. Peach paused for a moment before saying, "Come in." The dragoness came in with a face full of smiles. "Sister Peach Girl, this is Father's newly brewed soul enchantment wine. I only managed to obtain a small jar, and I've been hiding it all this time. Since you've come today, let's taste it together." Peach Girl's eyes flashed. Spirit Confusion wine? Senior Long Sheng personally brewed it. It's said to be able to intoxicate the Saint Tao and ask one's true self. Dragon Girl nodded. That's right. It's this wine. Sister Peach Girl, let me tell you something. Father wasn't lying about this. There's an old turtle in the East Sea. Although it's not my father's match, it relies on its sturdy shell to defy the Dragon Palace. You know about this, right? But not long ago, Father bestowed a jar of soul enchantment wine to that old turtle. It didn't know how heavy it was and drank it in one gulp. Because of this, it lost all its face. If it wasn't dragged away by a group of turtles, it would have told everyone about the several absurd affairs it had when it was young. The speaker was casual, but the listener was interested. The yard master had once mentioned the old turtle in the East Sea. She said that its innate bloodline wasn't good enough, so it couldn't cross the sea. Otherwise, the one who controlled the East Sea and deterred the outside world might not have been that greedy, lustful, and shameless old dragon. Even it couldn't withstand a jar of soul enchantment wine and was humiliated on the spot. Its power could be imagined. If Qin Yu drank it, wouldn't he be able to ask anything he wanted? Moreover, he wouldn't be able to recall anything afterwards. Peach Girl reached out and took the jar. She looked down and said, "Yard master likes to drink. I'll accept this jar of wine." Dragon Girl, didn't I say that we should drink it together? That's not good. You've changed the script. Moreover, if I don't drink the soul enchantment wine, how can I have a chance? Of course. She couldn't say the latter part. In the past, she had shown the slightest sign that something was wrong and was almost blacklisted by Peach Girl. It was only after a long time that they regained contact. Squeezing out a smile, Dragon Girl said, "Yard master likes to drink it. As a junior, it's only right for me to offer it. Once we're at the Dragon Palace, I'll ask Father for more. I have a good reason. Since Big Sister Peach has asked, Father won't be able to refuse. Cough, cough. So let's drink this jar." Peach Girl shook her head. "It's just this jar. If you don't want to, you can take it." Dragon Girl almost cried. She thought, "My dear big sister, it's so difficult to kiss you. If I throw this meat bun out, it won't even get into the water, let alone make a splash. You've already confiscated it. Of course. She couldn't take it away unless Dragon Girl didn't want to be friends with Peach Girl. She could only nod in agreement with a calm expression, although her heart was filled with sorrow. The shrimp soldiers and crab generals in the Dragon Palace didn't know what had happened, but they were sure that Dragon Girl was in a bad mood. There was no need for anyone to inform her. Only a blind man wouldn't know from her gloomy and murderous eyes. They puffed out their chests and puffed out their bellies, putting on their best appearance. They had to be careful in their work and not make any mistakes. Otherwise, if they fell into the hands of this Dragon Girl, they wouldn't have a good ending. It turned out that a person who was dissatisfied and secretly angry could always be found looking for trouble. In less than half a day, 3 shrimp soldiers and 4 crab generals had fallen into the hands of Dragon Girl. They screamed miserably as they were tortured, causing everyone in the Dragon Palace to turn pale. Peach Girl certainly wouldn't forget Chinyu. After obtaining the Spirit Confusion Wine, she had already formulated a preliminary plan. Now, she only lacked an opportunity. So, when Dragon Girl suggested that Chinyu follow the team carrying the birthday gifts into the East Sea and that they go first, she refused without hesitation. As a result, when Dragon Girl called Chinyu onto the Dragon Girl's imperial carriage, the first thing he saw was her fierce eyes. She was truly ferocious. In fact, Chinyu was a little worried that she would suddenly reveal her true form and swallow him whole. He was speechless. You told me to stay in my room, and I did as you said. So how come you still have such an attitude? For better or worse, I am a disciple of the Peach Garden. Even if you are the beloved daughter of the Dragon Sage, there should be a limit to how much you can bully others. Chapter 12:13. Chinyu, who considered himself to be an honest man, felt dissatisfied with the Dragon Lady's actions. The air pressure in the carriage fell to its lowest point. Every time he breathed, he could clearly hear the rustling sound of air passing through his throat and windpipe. She never expected that the Chinyu who had been so timid not too long ago would dare to act so boldly in front of her. The Dragon Lady's eyes were as cold as knives. She thought, "Boy, you actually managed to disguise yourself so well in front of me. I was almost fooled by you. No, it wasn't just a simple concealment. There had to be some other problem. Otherwise, why would Chinyu be so weak when they first met? Why would he act so tough in the carriage today?" A sharp light exploded in the Dragon Lady's eyes. A thought appeared in her mind. He was doing this on purpose. His goal was to attract Peach Maiden's attention through the contrast between them. Yes, that's it. With this in mind, the Dragon Lady was both shocked and enraged. An 80-meter-long machete was already raised high in her heart. She thought to herself, "You bastard, you really have guts. You actually dare to touch the person I chose many years ago right in front of me? Just you wait for this old lady. The East Sea is my father's territory. This time I've thrown a tantrum. Even if I have to endure the scolding and punishment, I will let you know what the Dragon Sage's thunderous methods are like. Even if you have the Garden Master as your backing, our East Sea can still make you regret ever being born. I won't die, but I'll shed 70 or 80 layers of skin. If I see you again in the future, I won't dare to have any thoughts I shouldn't have. That won't be a problem." Thinking of this, the Dragon Lady sneered. She closed her eyes and instantly thought of 17 or 18 methods. Any one of them would be enough to make Chinyu suffer. Chinyu would be an idiot if he didn't feel such intense malice. This left him even more speechless. Just how strong was the Eastern Sea Dragon Sage to be able to protect such a lawless daughter? She clearly knew he was a disciple of the Peach Blossom Garden, and yet she dared to plot against him so openly. He glanced at Peach Maiden. She was quietly looking out the window, as if she didn't notice the atmosphere in the carriage that was filled with malice. She clearly didn't want to interfere. Chinyu was speechless. He thought that after entering the East Sea, he would have to be more careful. He couldn't allow the Dragon Lady to grasp his weakness and take advantage of the situation to flip out. But the facts proved that a defense would never be as sharp as an offense. Moreover, Qin Yu had far underestimated the dragon lady's determination to deal with him. The imperial carriage entered the Eastern Sea and immediately received the highest level of treatment, being led into the underwater Dragon Palace. It wasn't just because the most pampered and lawless sixth princess had arrived. It was also because of Peach Blossom, who was in the imperial carriage. As the legitimate daughter of the Yard Master and the only bloodline descendant of the Yard Master, her status in the myriad heavens and realms was much higher than that of ordinary descendants of true saints. This status was due to Peach Maid's uniqueness, as well as the things that the Yard Master had done for Peach Maid over the years. The Peach Garden style had always been to protect their own. It was fine as long as they didn't bully you, but don't ever think of bullying me. This was already unreasonable to begin with. Peach Girl now had a terrifying 10 times increase in stats. That was why anyone who provoked Peach Girl would be met with the fury of the yard owner. If one had to make a list of the people in the divine Tao circle that should not be provoked, Peach Girl would definitely be ranked at the very top, even though she was not a divine Tao cultivator. This tells us that one's family background is simply 2F** king important. There were no other guests at all. They were first led into the Dragon Palace and sent to their accommodations. Then they waited for the birthday banquet to officially begin. The Dragon Girl's imperial carriage didn't stop along the way and went straight to the oceanic trench where the dragon sage was cultivating in seclusion. A pair of huge eyes suddenly opened in the crystal wall. A low and dignified chuckle rang out in everyone's ears. "Little girl Peach, you're too immature. I've sent over a dozen invitations to the Peach Blossom Garden during my youth, asking you to stay in the Dragon Palace for a while. But you've never agreed to even one of my invitations. This time, if it wasn't for my birthday banquet, would you not have come either?" Peach Maid, who had walked out of the imperial carriage, bowed with a calm expression. "It's my fault. Please forgive me, Lord Dragon Sage." The giant eye in the crystal wall suddenly revealed a look of helplessness. You still have such a cold personality. This ain't really wants to ask that old fellow who sold peaches. She was such a lively and cute little girl when she was young. How did she become like this?" Peach Maid remained silent. Seeing the atmosphere turn a bit cold, the dragon girl humphed. "Royal Father, you've been biased since you were a child, always thinking about Peach Maid. But today, your daughter is also here, and you don't even ask me a single question. Isn't that a bit too much?" The dragon sage humphed. "You? This saint won't follow you. You're just afraid that one day I'll be angered to death by you." Qin Yu silently praised. Indeed, no one knew a daughter better than a father. He swept his eyes over the dragon girl, thinking that the dragon sage's words were indeed quite good. Sensing Qin Yu's gaze, the dragon girl sneered inwardly. He actually dared to watch the play? It seemed he didn't know how much trouble he was in, but on the surface, her eyes turned red with grievance. She mournfully said, "Royal Father, how can you speak to your daughter like that? I was bullied by others, and yet you're still like this." As she spoke, she actually began to cry. This acting was just average, crying as soon as she said it was too fake. But at this moment, why did he suddenly have a bad premonition? A dignified look appeared in Qin Yu's heart. The dragon girl was shamelessly crying in front of him, and Peach Girl, wasn't she afraid of losing face? Although he hadn't interacted with her much, Qin Yu could clearly feel the arrogance of this dragon girl. She was arrogant to the extreme. For a person like her to not even care about face, the only way was if there was a greater goal that she could tolerate losing face. Qin Yu felt that something was wrong. He glanced at the dragon girl from the corner of his eyes and saw a cold light shoot at him from within her red eyes. Fuck! This woman wanted to mess with him. The Dragon King frowned. He looked at the dragon girl and said, "Why are you crying? You are my daughter, so who would dare to bully you? Speak. If you really are bullied, then Father will uphold justice for you." The dragon girl sobbed. But his background isn't small. I'm afraid that father will be embarrassed. She was trying to goad him into action, and it was also so crude. Qin Yu cried out in his heart. What sort of status did the dragon sage have? He definitely wouldn't fall for this. But he was wrong. The dragon sage's eyes darkened. He sneered, Tell me, just what sort of background does the person who bullied you have that even I have to dread? Seeing that the time was right, the dragon girl no longer delayed. She turned and pointed at Qin Yu, delivering a fatal blow. It's this person. Big Sister Peach and I came to the East Sea together. This person is a disciple of Peach Blossom Garden, so I allowed him to stay in the Dragon Palace with me. I never thought that he would be so daring as to peep at me bathing, and I discovered him on the spot. I was too ashamed to speak of this matter, and because I didn't want to make things difficult for Big Sister Peach, I endured it and didn't do anything. But today, on the road to the East Sea, this person's attitude towards me was extremely cold and hard, and I felt wronged. I only ask that Father uphold justice for me. Clumsy, far too clumsy. Compared to the best actors and best actresses that Qin Yu had encountered during his cultivation, this level of acting couldn't be any worse. He was about to arrive at the East Sea, so how could he be so stupid as to run over to peep at the dragon sage's daughter bathing? Just how good did you think you were that a dignified disciple of Peach Blossom Garden would do such a thing in front of you? And you even said that you were caught on the spot and endured it until now? Didn't you know what sort of personality you had? You even said such unreliable words. And you even said that on the way to the East Sea my attitude was extremely cold and hard. This was simply an insult to everyone's intelligence. Qin Yu was enraged. But in truth, he couldn't help but feel a bit panicked. What nonsense! He couldn't help but panic. It was true that no one knew a daughter better than a father, but there was no problem with this saying. If Dragon Girl dared to use such a clumsy method to frame him, that meant she was confident in herself. Feeling the Dragon Sovereign's eyes on him, Qin Yu's heart skipped a beat. He quickly steadied his mind. No matter what, he couldn't just sit here and wait for death. For better or worse, he was still a disciple of Peach Blossom Garden, so the dragon sage would have to give him some face. Moreover, Peach Blossom Garden was also here. She didn't need to interfere in this small matter, but Dragon Girl had clearly come with ill intentions. She definitely couldn't stand idly by. Junior Qin Yu greets Senior Dragon Sage. Qin Yu respectfully bowed. Although he was annoyed and in disbelief at the dragon sage's attitude, he wouldn't reveal any of it. What a simple truth. Why don't you try showing it to me? He would definitely be hammered to death. His status as a disciple of Peach Blossom Garden wouldn't help him if he was disrespectful to a true saint, so Qin Yu definitely couldn't give the dragon sage any reason to fly off the handle. At this moment, he finally understood why Dragon Girl had such a temperament. She must have been spoiled rotten by her father. The dragon sage's eyes were indifferent. You are the new disciple of the garden master? Qin Yu respectfully said, Yes, I am the 9th disciple of Peach Blossom Garden. Tell me, the dragon sage said, what do you plan to do about what my daughter said? Qin Yu said in a deep voice, reporting to the dragon sage, I dare to guarantee with my life that Dragon Girl must have misunderstood. I absolutely didn't do anything offensive. Flatly refusing, saying that Peach Blossom Garden was making things up and that he was innocent from head to toe? Damn it. Forget it. Even if that was the truth, he absolutely couldn't say it. Otherwise, what did he mean? Wasn't it obvious that Dragon Girl was talking nonsense? Moreover, as a dignified dragon sage, how could he be so blind as to believe her? That would be courting death. Thus, Qin Yu could only use this relatively gentle method to express his attitude. No one dared to look directly into the dragon sage's eyes. Thus, no one noticed a flash of appreciation and jealousy in the depths of his eyes. The space laws weren't anything special. There were several cultivators under East Sea who had already stepped into it. To be able to withstand his mark and not die, Well, this was indeed amazing. It proved that Qin Yu was far more powerful than he appeared on the surface. That's right, at first sight, without needing Qin Yu to introduce himself, the dragon sage was able to determine that he was the reckless boy who had touched the mark. Now, he discovered Qin Yu's strong points. He was smart enough to know when to advance and when to retreat. This was especially rare. He wasn't the one with the best talent in the dragon bloodline, nor was he the one with the strongest lucky chances and luck. So, why was he the one who eventually rose and became the dragon sage? The reason was that he was a smart dragon. Only smart people could live longer, and only by living longer would they have the chance to go further than others and obtain greater achievements. The more he looked at Qin Yu, the more he found him pleasing to the eye, and the more he found him pleasing to the eye, the more vexed he felt. And the more vexed he felt, the more intense a certain thought became. Why was such a boy taken away by that shameless peach seller? I, the dragon sage of the East Sea, am greatly dissatisfied. But even though he had his own thoughts, he couldn't be too simple and crude. Not to mention that Peach Maiden was still here, and the current reason wasn't enough. But it didn't matter. Now that Qin Yu was in the East Sea, there was too much room for him to maneuver. The dragon sage glanced at his daughter and suddenly came up with a brilliant idea. What he thought in his heart and what he showed on his face were two completely different emotions. For the dragon sage to achieve this was simply incomparably easy. From within the crystal wall, the dragon sage exhaled. Then a dignified and deep voice filled with suppressed anger resounded in Qin Yu's ears. I don't care what you did or didn't do, but my daughter has been wronged. This is an indisputable fact. Today, out of consideration for the yard master's face, I won't pursue this matter any further. But, Qin Yu, remember, don't do this again. Otherwise, I won't let this go. Do you understand? Peach Maiden frowned slightly, and a thoughtful look flashed in her eyes. Today's dragon sage was different from her impression of him. She had a feeling that there was more to this matter than meets the eye. Could it be that there was a hidden story? Dragon Maiden looked unwilling. But even as a doted daughter, she absolutely didn't dare to question the dragon sage's decision. She glanced at Qin Yu from the corner of her eyes and sneered inwardly. This time, I'll teach you a painful lesson. Next time, I'll make you leave. Give up? There was no way he would give up. Anything else was fine. But if he dared to have designs on Peach Maiden, even if it was just a little bit, it was absolutely unforgivable. His face turned pale. It was really pale. Being warned by a true sage in front of him was enough to make an ordinary person vomit blood. Qin Yu's face only turned pale, which was already very impressive. He was extremely annoyed, but then he let out a sigh of relief. He cupped his hands and bowed. Thank you, Dragon Sage, for showing mercy. After leaving the Holy Ocean Trench and arriving at the temporary residence of the Dragon Palace, Dragon Maiden gave Qin Yu a cold smile and left. Qin Yu was silent for a long time. Then he smiled bitterly. Senior sister, how about I leave first? Peach Maiden's back was facing him. She frowned slightly. I'll remind Dragon Maiden not to make things difficult for you. That would determine whether or not it was okay. Qin Yu wanted to try again, but Peach Maiden didn't give him a chance. She directly pushed open the door and walked in. She returned to her room and closed the door. Her movements were smooth and smooth. Standing outside the courtyard, Qin Yu bitterly smiled. He thought that Dragon Maiden might be watching him from the shadows like a tiger watching its prey, so he hurried into the courtyard. If he stayed by Peach Maiden's side, she would at least be a little afraid. Otherwise, who knew what that crazy old woman Dragon Maiden would do? Thinking about it, in order to frame Qin Yu, she didn't even care about her reputation. She even took the initiative to fabricate a story about being peeped on while bathing. She was simply insane. Qin Yu had already decided that before he left the East Sea, he would follow Peach Maiden closely and not take a single step away from her. After all, the Dragon Sage's attitude was clear. If he was schemed against by Dragon Maiden again, he would be in deep trouble. But what Chinyu didn't know was that the truth was that Dragon Maiden wasn't the only one scheming against him. As the saying went, it was easy to dodge a spear in the open, but hard to guard against an arrow in the dark. Chapter 12:14. After 3 days of seclusion, the longevity feast was about to begin. Even so, he hadn't been able to think of a way to ensure his safety. The main problem was that the Eastern Sea Dragon Sage was simply too muddle-headed. Now that he thought about it, he still couldn't imagine how Dragon Lady, with her clumsy acting skills, had believed her. In the end, he could only attribute it to a father's unrestrained love for his daughter. This was the reason why it was so difficult to deal with. Long Xingji might not be muddle-headed. He clearly knew there was a problem, but he still chose to admit it. What else could they do? But in reality, as long as one lived in this world, regardless of one's background, there would always be some helplessness. Inwardly, he bitterly smiled and also felt annoyed. He didn't know what to do. Instead of waiting for Dragon Girl's 2 consecutive attacks, Peach Girl's problem first appeared. When the knocking first sounded out, Chinyu was worried that this might be a trap for him. But soon, he determined that this matter had nothing to do with him. They were all Dragon Lady's suitors. The reason he used them to describe it was because in just a short 1 or 2 days, Chinyu had braced himself to receive at least 10 cultivators. What these people had in common was that they were all extremely handsome. At the very least, they had a dignified and extraordinary appearance. They were of noble birth and had a powerful background. Their cultivations were also extremely tyrannical. At the same time, their attitudes were extremely good. Although none of them had even seen Peach Blossom Girl, they were still extremely polite to him. In particular, after learning that he was Peach Blossom Garden's new Mr. Ninth, their attitudes became increasingly warm. "Mr. Ninth, please wait. Miss Peach is currently in seclusion, and it's truly regretful that I wasn't able to see her today. Please accept this small token of my appreciation, Miss Ninth. You must accept it. Just treat it as a small compensation for disturbing Miss Ninth's cultivation today. Being able to meet Mr. Ninth today shows that we must have a deep relationship. In the future, Mr. can come to the clear void immortal realm. I will definitely welcome you. These tea leaves are nothing but a token of my respect. It's not something precious. Just treat it as a token of my friendship with you. No need to send me off. No need to send me off. When Miss Peach comes out of seclusion, I would like to ask Mr. Ninth to inform me that I have come to visit something." "What was that?" "We didn't lose anything. You must have remembered wrongly. This belongs to you. Goodbye." Perhaps it was just a small gesture of goodwill, or perhaps he didn't care at all. However, anyone who had the qualifications to come here today and dared to curry favor with Peach Blossom would definitely not be an ordinary person. The things he gave her definitely wouldn't be bad, not to mention his status. But if they were bad, then he would lose face. And with Chinyu's status as Mr. Ninth, who didn't think he had never seen good things before, was he trying to send away a beggar? With just this, he still wanted Chinyu to put in a good word or 2 for him. That was nothing more than wishful thinking. If he didn't try his best to discredit him, he would be considered to have a conscience. So for the past 2 days, Chinyu had been receiving so many gifts that his hands had become sore. At first, he had sternly refused them, but Peach Girl didn't say anything. These people had the same attitude of, if you don't accept my gifts, then you're looking down on me. And if you look down on me, then you're looking down on my family's elders. To have Peach Chin, sect was to not to have any more of the of trouble. Was garden, they were to Chin to him, he to Peach. There was an endless stream of visitors every day. While Chinyu was busy receiving the gifts, Dragon Girl was in her palace, almost bursting with anger. This group of bastards, and stinky toad eggs were really bold. They actually dared to openly pursue Peach Girl in front of her. Did they really think that this grand ant was made of mud and water? There was also Chinyu, that treacherous bastard. Not only did he help Peach, he even called those people brothers and acted as if he regretted not meeting them earlier. Bah! He had been bribed with just a few things. What a good-for-nothing. How could he be Peach Garden's Mr. Ninth? He was a disgrace to Peach Garden. After all, everyone who was qualified to come into contact with the circle of the divine path knew that the garden master, who had sold peaches several times, was the top of all the divine path. If there was a chance, she would complain to the garden master and give Chinyu a hard time. It would be best if she could drive this bastard out of the garden. But the most important thing now was to stop these people from running around. Although Peach Maiden hadn't revealed the slightest hint of anything amiss to anyone over the years, the more it was like this, the more they couldn't be careless. Those who had the guts to come and court her were not ordinary people. What if one of them fell in love with Peach Girl? Chinyu could accept the gifts without a care in the world. But Dragon Girl couldn't stand it. She had chosen Peach Girl many years ago, and no one could touch her. If they touched her, they would die. Well, this was a bit of a boast. Even though this was the East Sea, and her father was the East Sea Dragon Saint, and the Dragon Saint doted on her a lot, if she really killed these bastards, she would have to suffer with them. She couldn't kill them, but she could make them feel uncomfortable so that they wouldn't have the energy to do anything else. Dragon Girl began to exert her power. Suddenly, the East Sea Dragon Palace was in a mess. All kinds of accidents happened, and it was a chaotic scene. The powerful cultivators who tried to get close to Dragon Girl were all in trouble. The unluckiest one was even slandered, saying that he had lost his virtue after drinking too much and that he had taken the body of a servant girl in the East Sea Dragon Palace. Things were getting really lively. Raising a pair of giant pincers, she blocked the courtyard where that person was. The Crab Girl wept pitifully. However, anyone with a discerning eye would know that this descendant of a half-saint would only be interested in such a pair of giant pincers if she was blind and her temperament had changed drastically. It was a familiar plot. The moment Chinyu heard about it, he was sure that it was Dragon Lady's handiwork. However, since it had nothing to do with him, Chinyu was happy to have some peace and quiet. To be honest, although he had received many good things, he had been tortured every day. Besides, even if there was a reason for this, he had done it out of consideration for the peach garden. Ahem. But it would be troublesome if he received too many things. It was better to take it slow. In fact, Chinyu could guess the reason why Dragon Girl was so popular. She was the legitimate daughter of the yard master and the only bloodline inheritor. She was loved by all, and whoever married Peach Girl would have a meteoric rise. To put it bluntly, after marrying Peach Girl, one would be able to dominate the vast young world. Who would dare to provoke them? Not to mention that Peach Girl's condition was top-notch. As long as one had the qualifications, even if they knew that the chances were slim, they would still be willing to give it a try. What if they were lucky? Although annoying trifles could be used to annoy people for a while, it wasn't very useful if they happened again and again. In particular, the cultivation generations gradually came back to their senses and directly ignored the trifles in the Dragon Palace. With their status, as long as the Dragon Sage didn't say anything, who would dare to stop them? Thus, Chinyu discovered that the cultivation generations who had disappeared had returned. Their attitudes were even more enthusiastic than before, and Peach Girl's residence became lively once more. But gradually, Chinyu began to feel uncomfortable as he watched these fellows who were trying their best to show off and attract Peach Girl's attention. At first, he thought that he was tired of socializing, but he soon discovered that this wasn't the case. After sending off the nearest group of people, Chinyu sat down to catch his breath. He glanced at the jade box on the table. Although it wasn't opened, the things inside were definitely valuable. These people had been rejected so many times, but they had become more and more generous, and the value of the things they gave him was constantly rising. Chinyu frowned. He picked up the teacup and drank it in one gulp. His eyebrows furrowed, and a gloomy look appeared in his eyes. The sound of footsteps rang out, rousing him from his thoughts. He turned around and saw Peach Girl standing behind him. "Greetings, Senior Apprentice Sister Peach." Even with Chinyu's willpower and shrewdness, He still couldn't help but blush at this moment. After all, strictly speaking, he was using Peach Girl's name to plunder treasures, and his harvest was quite plentiful. And now there was even a piece of evidence on the table. Peach Girl's expression was as calm as ever. "Rise." Then she walked over and poured herself a cup of tea. She sipped from it and didn't say anything to Chinyu before turning to leave. It was as if she had come out just to drink a cup of tea and would leave after drinking it. "Senior apprentice, sister." Chinyu suddenly called out. He stared at her back. "Aren't you angry that I did this?" Peach Girl looked back at him. "Why would I be angry?" Chinyu opened his mouth. He didn't know what to say, but he subconsciously let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that Peach Girl didn't care about what he had done. In other words, of all the pursuers that had swarmed over these past days, she hadn't even placed a single one in her eyes. That was good, that was good. That's not right. Why would I think that? Why would I be relieved? Chinyu asked himself. He couldn't come up with a clear answer for a time, so he fell into contemplation. By the time he sobered up, Peach Girl had already left. Looking in the direction of her room, Chinyu bitterly smiled. Ningling was Ningling, Yuchi was Yuchi, but if he wasn't mistaken, they were both a part of Peach Girl. In other words, these people that were pursuing Peach Girl were also pursuing Ningling and Yuchi. Just think about it. His Dao companion, the woman he loved the most, was being pursued by others right in front of him. Even if this saying was indeed a little inappropriate to apply to Peach Blossom Girl, that was the truth. How the hell was he supposed to continue living like this? As he thought about how he had used this matter to obtain many precious treasures, Chinyu felt that he had gone too far. He couldn't allow these people to continue. Even if he knew that Peach Girl wouldn't take a liking to these people, Chinyu still felt vexed. The question was, what could he do to stop these cultivators from continuing? Using their background to suppress others? That definitely wouldn't work. In order to curry favor with Chinyu, these people had clearly introduced themselves. They said that they knew their origins, backgrounds, and so on. Although it was a bit exaggerated, they still had some understanding of each other. In short, each one of them had a backer behind them. Their family or teacher was at least a half-sage. There were even many descendants and juniors of a true Prometheus saint. What should he do? He couldn't just stare on helplessly from the sidelines. As Chinyu was worrying about what to do, Dragon Girl suddenly came knocking on his door. However, what was worth comforting was that this crazy woman didn't come today to target Chinyu, but to discuss cooperation with him. "Chinyu, have you discovered that the things you receive are becoming more and more precious? Aren't you curious about the reason?" Looking at the Dragon Lady's mocking and angry eyes, Chinyu suddenly felt that there were some things that he had thought too simply. Sensing the subtle changes in Chinyu's expression, Dragon Girl sneered. "Have you realized? At least you're not that stupid, but you've already stirred up trouble. These past years, the Yard Master has never expressed her opinion on Peach Girl's marriage. She doesn't support it nor oppose it, so even though they are restless, they can only forcefully endure it. But now, you, the Peach Garden's Miss Ninth, are wantonly accepting gifts from all sides. The hidden meaning behind this is that the Yard Master has tacitly agreed to allow Peach Girl to choose her own marriage. So, the gifts given to you are becoming more and more precious. Do you really think they are for you? Humph. Chinyu, if you think that, then you're overestimating your worth as Miss Ninth." Chinyu took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. His eyes were bright and firm. "I indeed didn't consider what you said before, but these people are so fanatically chasing after Peach Girl. The reason is not as simple as it seems on the surface. In other words, even if I didn't step forward, they would still swarm over such a good opportunity. As for the hidden meaning behind this, even if I accept the gifts, as long as the Yard Master doesn't say anything, who would dare to act so recklessly?" The Dragon Lady arched an eyebrow. She didn't think that Chinyu's mind would be so clear even under her criticism. Chinyu didn't give her any more time to be surprised. He looked up and stared into the Dragon Lady's eyes. Since you appeared here, that means you want to help my senior apprentice sister. I can agree to join forces with you. But you must tell me what these people's true goal is." The dragon lady was secretly annoyed. She couldn't figure out how things had turned out like this in the blink of an eye. It shouldn't have been like this. Her words had left Qin Yu speechless, making him feel guilty and restless. And then he had allowed himself to be manipulated by her? But now, she had been threatened by this boy instead. The dragon lady wasn't someone who would easily admit defeat. She was born with a noble temperament, so it was natural for her to be arrogant. But as she looked into Qin Yu's eyes, she could feel the firmness in his eyes. This wasn't a disguise, but a thought that came from the depths of Qin Yu's heart. He had to figure out why Peach Girl was being so fanatically chased after. Because this didn't just involve Peach Girl, but also his woman. The two stared at each other for a long time. The dragon lady clenched her teeth. "Fine. Since you want to know, then I will tell you. These people are chasing after Peach Girl because she is the Yard Master's only daughter. In the circles of the Saint Tao, she is the highest quality Tao companion. But that's not all. The Yard Master only has Peach Girl as her bloodline inheritance, and she cherishes and protects her with the utmost care. As for Peach Girl's aura, there seems to be something wrong with her. Don't ask me for the specifics, because I wouldn't know even if you did. I only inadvertently heard my royal father mention it once. In short, some people have made a bold conjecture based on these matters. That Peach Girl might be related to the Yard Master's great Tao." Qin Yu was expressionless, but his chest rumbled like thunder. If this was really the case, then this was the worst possible news for him. Chapter 12:15. It was something that was out in the open. Qin Yu's purpose in entering the peach garden was to hug a strong thigh and avoid being hunted down by a sage. But in the end, the most important reason was that he wanted to find a way to rescue Ningling and Yu Qi from Peach Maiden. The difficulty of this matter was already frighteningly high. If Peach Girl was really related to the Yard Master's great Tao, in other words, harming Peach Girl was equivalent to harming the Yard Master's great Tao. The difficulty of this matter had suddenly risen to a level that made people despair. No, it might not be like this. It was not certain that this was the truth based on Dragon Girl's one-sided statement. She took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. "That's it." Qin Yu sneered. "What you said seems reasonable, but it is far from enough to conclude that Peach Girl is related to the Yard Master's great Tao. Either these people are all idiots, or you are hiding something. Dragon Girl, do you think they are idiots, or am I?" Dragon Girl bit her lip and stared at Qin Yu. "That's right. This is not enough. But you'd better keep what I'm about to say a secret. Once it gets out, it will cause a huge uproar." Qin Yu was expressionless. "Speak," Dragon Girl said. "My royal father once said half a sentence after drinking that Peach Girl has the aura of Tao. Tao is something that only a sage can have. Peach Girl is not a sage, but she has the aura of Tao. What do you think is the reason?" Qin Yu's heart shrank. If my royal father can see it, other sages might be able to see it too. This is the reason why Peach Girl is so crazily pursued. What they want is not only the status and honor they can obtain after marrying Peach Girl, but also the great Tao of the Yard Master through Peach Girl. They even want to obtain Peach Girl's Tao through certain means. No wonder these cultivators couldn't move Peach Girl at all, no matter how sincere they were or how outstanding they were. She probably already knew about these things. All of her pursuers probably had ulterior motives, and such pursuits were nothing but torture to her. Even if one or two of these pursuers were sincere and liked her, would Peach Girl dare to try it? He continued to think about it. Was Peach Blossom's usual cold and indifferent attitude just a facade she put up to protect him? At this moment, Qin Yu was almost certain that Peach Girl was related to the Yard Master's great Tao. He had mixed feelings. On one hand, he was helpless because rescuing Ningling and Yu Qi would be more difficult. But on the other hand, he was full of guilt towards Peach Girl. This was especially so when he thought about why she was angry at him. Peach actually had plenty of reasons to be angry at him. He took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. He looked at Dragon Lady and said, "Speak. What do you want to do?" Dragoness said, "It's very simple. The reason why they are pestering Peach Garden like mad dogs is because they want to move her and make her their son-in-law." "Garden already has a son-in-law?" Qin Yu's eyes widened. No, I have to think of another method." What kind of **t idea was that? He felt guilty, and he really did want to help Peach. However, there should be a limit to how much he could help her. At the very least, he couldn't throw his life away. Peach Garden's son-in-law? Believe it or not, if Peach Girl were to fall out with him, she would directly put him in a difficult position. Think about how the yard owner, who was famous for doting on her daughter, dared to tarnish Peach Girl's reputation. Let's see if he would be smashed into minced meat. He glared at Dragon Girl. She was famous for doting on her daughter. If he dared to sully Peach Girl's reputation, he would be smashed into meat paste. Dragon Girl blushed red. "Put away that look. If I wanted to harm you, I have many ways. Why would I need to use such methods? If it weren't for helping Peach Girl, you could forget about having any relationship with her." Qin Yu firmly said, "There is no room for discussion." Dragon Girl was annoyed. "If you don't agree, then think of another way." "Qin Yu, see, if there were any other choice, I wouldn't have come to you." Dragon Girl took a deep breath. "Don't worry, I already have a plan. As long as you cooperate, you don't need to take the initiative." He explained the plan to Zhangxian. Qin Yu hesitated. Dragon Girl clenched her teeth. "Are you a man or not? Don't forget, you used Peach Girl's name to take in a lot of things." Qin Yu said, "This has nothing to do with being a man. I have to think it over. After all, even if the yard master and senior apprentice sister don't blame me, I still have to be a shield. You should know better than me what sort of people I'm trying to block. So why can't I think about it a bit more?" Sensing the change in Qin Yu's attitude, Dragon Girl squeezed out a smile. "Of course you can. Hurry up and think. I'll be waiting for you." Time slowly passed. Just as Dragon Girl was about to explode with impatience, Qin Yu let out a long sigh. Qin Yu met Dragon Girl's eyes and said, "First, we will do as you say. I won't say anything or refuse. If things develop differently from what you say, I can withdraw at any time. Second, you must guarantee that you won't harm me again." Dragon Girl readily agreed. She hurriedly warned Qin Yu a few more times before turning and leaving. As she left the courtyard, she sneered. She thought that a woman's words couldn't be trusted, and a beautiful woman's words were even more so. If you didn't even have this bit of common sense, you still dared to come out and mingle? Humph, humph. Just wait for your bad luck. Watching Dragon Girl leave, Qin Yu revealed a helpless expression. He certainly wouldn't completely believe everything Dragon Girl said, but the truth was that he couldn't tolerate these cultivators who were crazily harassing Peach Garden with their own ulterior motives. Fine, pretending to be Peach Garden's son-in-law was definitely dangerous, but as long as he didn't say anything, there was still room for negotiation. In the worst-case scenario, he could just bite Dragon Girl out and reveal everything. In the end, he was helping Peach Garden, and the garden master wouldn't be so ruthless to him. After thinking about it again and again, Qin Yu sighed. In any case, he had already agreed. Even if he regretted it, Dragon Girl wouldn't give him a chance to do so. He could only take things one step at a time. Peach Garden was in the East Sea. Once the rumors spread, she would eventually find out. At that time, he would wait and see how she would react. If it was ha, then he would hurry up and rein in his horse before it was too late. He would explain things clearly to everyone and then wash his hands clean. If it was ha, then he would brace himself and be a good shield to make up for the guilt in his heart. It was unknown where the rumors came from, but they seemed to spread throughout the entire East Sea Dragon Palace in a single night. From the important officials of the Dragon Palace to the guests who came to congratulate him, to the prawn soldiers and crab generals of the water tribe, everyone heard this shocking news. It was said that even Crab Girl, who had been whimpering in pain outside the courtyard for several days, was in a daze for a long time. Peach Garden's first daughter, Peach Garden's ninth lady, Chinyu, was in love with each other and had been recognized by the garden master. There were countless versions of the rumors. There was the love at first sight version, the wheel and woe version, the sincerity that could move metal and stone, and all kinds of fancy and fantastical versions. In short, all the contents of the rumors could be summarized with this sentence. Of course, the amount was also sufficient. In an instant, Qin Yu's name was known by everyone. He became the target of envy and jealousy. Nonsense! How could they not be envious and jealous? She was the first daughter of the Peach Garden and the Garden Master's only bloodline descendant. For her, the Garden Master had personally rolled up her sleeves and gone into battle many times. Marrying her was tantamount to having an imperial sword and a death exemption token. As long as he took good care of Peach Garden, it was a bit exaggerated to say that he could conquer the vast Yang world. However, except for the Supreme Master and a few super ancient true sages who had lived for countless years, no one dared to make things difficult for him. Peach Garden's ninth lady was of noble status, but compared to the Peach Garden's son-in-law, he was at least 7 or 8 levels lower. It was absolutely not an exaggeration to say that he had reached the heavens in a single bound. Ordinary cultivators did not know what had happened in the Xianming world, but it was no secret to the sages. Everyone in the Dragon Palace suddenly came to a realization. No wonder the Garden Master suddenly intervened and sent Peach Girl to the boundless sea to suppress the 7 half-sages with her will and take Chinyu into the Peach Garden. Originally, they thought that the true saint of the Permitha realm had acted too hastily. After all, it was a big event for a sage to accept a disciple, which sage didn't go through many tests before finally being accepted as a disciple. Now that they thought about it again, perhaps the Garden Master had taken a liking to Chinyu and decided to choose him as her son-in-law. That was why she sent Peach Girl to give the 2 more chances to interact. Yes, that was it. Everything matched up, with the Garden Master's approval and matchmaking, and Peach Girl coming to the East Sea with Chinyu. It seemed that she did not object to the marriage. Therefore, this marriage was almost set in stone. They had to be envious, and jealous. If they were not envious or jealous, they were either a blockhead or a fool. At the same time, some people in the East Sea Dragon Palace heard the news one after another, and they gritted their teeth so hard that they almost broke. Qin Yu was really a despicable person. Since he had already obtained the Garden Master's approval and was together with Peach Girl, why didn't he tell them at the beginning? Thinking about everything they had done in front of Qin Yu during this period of time, how were they different from clowns on the stage? Moreover, the most outrageous thing was that Qin Yu not only pretended to be ignorant and watched the show, but he also accepted all the gifts they gave him. What the hell? He had gone too far. He was not only fooling them, but he was practically riding on their necks. First, he had done something small, and now he was doing something hot. Regardless of whether they were uncles or aunts, this was absolutely intolerable. There were also those with calm minds who couldn't help but frown secretly. There was no news from the Peach Garden, so how did the news spread in the East Sea first? Moreover, Chinyu hadn't said anything. What if it was a misunderstanding? They couldn't be impulsive. At least, they had to be patient and make a decision after the matter was confirmed. Of course, they had such thoughts because they had seen Chinyu before. In terms of handsomeness and background, he was not as good as them, let alone in terms of cultivation. The law of space was powerful, but it didn't mean that there was no hope for them. What kind of person was the Garden Master? It was even more impossible for her to betroth her only daughter to someone else just because of the law of space. Yes, that was it. The cultivators all felt that Chinyu, who was not even comparable to them, could not be a match for Peach Girl. There must be something wrong with him. Those who were more impatient couldn't help but run to find out what was going on. They used the rumors in the Dragon Palace to test Chinyu. Before opening the door, Qin Yu had cursed Dragon Girl countless times in his heart. This crazy woman was indeed unreliable, causing trouble the moment she showed up. She suddenly changed the content of the rumors they had agreed on. She even said that the two of them had obtained the Garden Master's approval. She was simply courting death. He couldn't admit it. He absolutely couldn't admit it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to hide from the Garden Master's blame. Biting out the Dragon Lady and revealing everything was the worst choice he could make in a situation where he had no other choice. Because behind Dragon Girl was the Dragon Sage, who doted on her endlessly. Biting her was equivalent to offending the Dragon Sage. Would it end well? That damn Dragon Girl. She really didn't give up on harming me. Just you wait. If I have a chance in the future, I will pay you back double. After sorting out his thoughts, Qin Yu opened the door with a smile. Brother Su, you're here. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you. Su Shi was the son of a half-step saint. He had lived for many years, but he still couldn't change his impulsive nature. He squeezed out a smile and said, Junior Brother Qin, I came here today because I heard some ridiculous rumors. They even involved you and Miss Peach Blossom's reputation. That's why I came here to clarify things, so that the rumors don't continue to spread and damage the reputation of the Peach Blossom Garden. Qin Yu knew what was going on. He couldn't help but scold Dragon Girl again. He pretended to be confused and said, What rumors? I've been cultivating in seclusion, so I don't know much about the outside world. Su Shi stared into his eyes. Haha, it's actually not a big deal. It's just a very outrageous rumor. Anyone with a discerning eye can tell it's false. Ahem, I mean it's about Miss Peach Girl. There are rumors saying that she has obtained the Garden Master's approval. How ridiculous! What kind of status does the Garden Master have? Why would she express her opinion on the matters of the younger generation? Moreover, she has always doted on Miss Peach Girl. She will definitely respect her opinion when choosing a husband. She will never directly interfere. Junior Brother Qin, don't you think these rumors are ridiculous? Qin Yu coughed. This matter. Qin Yu's heart raced as he looked into Su Shi's eyes. He knew that if he said what he was going to say next, he would definitely be used as a shield. Now, Su Shi, who was still forcing a smile, would probably have the intention to skin Qin Yu alive in the next moment. Actually, there's some misunderstanding here. Garden Master. Qin Yu had just started speaking when he was interrupted by Dragon Girl, who had come out of nowhere. Yes, there's indeed some misunderstanding. The Garden Master hasn't officially announced this matter to the public. How can juniors like us say anything? Then she glared at Qin Yu. I've already told you not to explain anymore. Otherwise, the more you explain, the worse things will get. People will talk about it for a few days, and then they won't be interested anymore. Qin Yu's blood was stuck in his throat. He thought to himself, what kind of nonsense is this? Now that you've said it, I'll admit everything. No, absolutely not. But before Qin Yu could speak again, the impatient Su Shi exploded like a firecracker. What else was there to say? What the Dragon Saint's daughter had said was very clear. The rumors were all true. He, a dignified son of a half-sage, had been miserably played by others. Qin Yu, you despicable man! With a roar, his eyes turned red. He punched at Qin Yu's head. Chapter 12:16. Without Qin Yu dodging or blocking, Su Shi, who was about to throw a punch, was instantly caught by the two guards behind him. Young master, please calm down. You can't hit him. Su Shi was enraged. Let go. Let go of me. Don't let go, young master. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and take him away. Go, go, go. Su Shi stood up and hugged his legs and arms tightly. Then the two guards ran away and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Su Shi's furious roar came from afar. Qin Yu, be careful. Shameless villain. I won't let you go. Hey, it's not like that. Why are you running so fast? Can't you stop and listen to my explanation? Qin Yu pointed at the dragon girl, his vision turning black. Calm down, calm down. The dragon girl was all smiles. A dignified son of a semi-sage dares not to touch you. TSK, TSK. Don't you feel like you've opened a whole new world with your deterrence and status? Qin Yu resisted the urge to curse. After all, this was the East Sea. If the dragon saint heard him, he would be in big trouble. He growled in a low voice, "Do you want me to die?" This woman must have done it on purpose. She didn't give Qin Yu a chance to explain. If he couldn't explain now, no one would believe him in the future. He had already fallen into a deep pit. If he was not careful, he might be buried alive and die a miserable death. The dragon girl looked scared. Then she raised her eyebrows at Qin Yu, meaning, "So what if I did it on purpose? If you have the guts, come and settle the score with me." Qin Yu wished he could hang the dragon girl up and beat her. But if he really did that, he would be the first to die. Moreover, he really didn't have time to waste on the dragon girl. After Su Shi returned, the matter would soon spread. Those cultivators who were friendly and close to him before would hate him as much as they hated him now. In other words, Qin Yu had enemies all over the world before he had done anything, and they were all extremely powerful. Moreover, this was not the key point. The key point was the attitude of the yard master. Although Qin Yu saw that the yard master was different from what he had expected, he couldn't be careless when it came to the dragon girl. Otherwise, there was no telling when they would be smashed into meat paste by a giant hand that would suddenly appear. He took a deep breath and turned to leave. With a loud bang, the courtyard doors slammed shut. Dragon Lady's eyes brightened. She seemed to have guessed what Qin Yu was going to do next. She laughed inwardly. Qin Yu, if you dare to confess to Peach Blossom, then you are simply courting death." She had a very good understanding of Peach Maiden's character. If he stirred up such a storm, Qin Yu's fate would surely be miserable. This would cut off any possibility of Qin Yu having any designs on Peach Girl in the future. Humph, humph. The other bastards are far away from Peach Blossom Girl, but Qin Yu is in the Peach Blossom Garden. One had to grasp the crux of the matter. If she didn't get rid of him first, how could the dragoness be at ease? As for Qin Yu, he would definitely sell her out as well. Dragon Girl had already prepared herself for this. She was just waiting for the right time to rush in, cry miserably, and say that she had done all of this to help Peach send away those disgusting fellows. Humph, humph. Such a serious matter in the past was turned into a small matter by her. Today was even less of a problem. Of course, she had to make Qin Yu suffer enough first before she could push open the door and enter. Since she was here to watch the fun, she had to watch the complete version to feel comfortable. He should have already appeared in front of Peach Maiden's door by now. Thinking of this, the dragoness' eyes brightened and a wise light flashed in them, provoking all sorts of second-generation youths and countless enemies. Then he was angrily rebuked by Peach Maiden and aroused the dissatisfaction of the garden master. Qin Yu, you are still too inexperienced. From now on, there will be no place for you in or out of the Peach Blossom Garden. You dare to fight with me? This is your fate. Who? Qin Yu let out a deep breath and knocked on the door. The dragoness had guessed correctly. The reason he had hurried back was because he wanted to confess to Peach Maiden and obtain her forgiveness. Like this, even if the garden master was enraged, she would still be able to ease her anger. That crazy old woman dragoness should have already guessed that she wouldn't have good intentions. This time he had been tricked by her. As Qin Yu gritted his teeth, the door opened from the inside. Peach Maiden glanced at him indifferently. "What's the matter?" Senior Sister Peach Maiden, Qin Yu was bewitched by the dragoness and unintentionally did something offensive. "I hope you can forgive me." Qin Yu paused and was about to explain the matter, but before he could speak, Peach Maiden waved her hand and interrupted him. "I know." These three words choked the words Qin Yu had prepared to say in his throat. "I know. What does that mean? Could it be Qin Yu's eyes widened subconsciously. Peach Maiden said lightly, "Is there anything else?" "No, nothing else." Bang. The door closed. Qin Yu subconsciously leaned forward because of his shock, and the door almost squeezed his nose. He quickly stepped back and staggered a few steps before he managed to stabilize himself. But even though he was standing still, his mind was still buzzing in a mess. What did Peach Maiden mean? Did she know? Did she know what had happened just now? Or had she already sensed it when the dragoness came to find him? She didn't notice at all. Was Peach Maiden's cultivation so high? Or was it because of the Tao accumulation in her body that the dragoness had mentioned? Disorderly thoughts tumbled in his mind. It took Qin Yu a great deal of effort to suppress them one by one. He took a deep breath and raised his hand to rub between his eyebrows. He began to sort out his thoughts and came to a conclusion. Peach Maiden wasn't angry. No matter when she found out, that wasn't the point. The point was Peach Maiden's attitude. She seemed to acquiesce. Sure enough, all of these random fellows rushed over like a swarm of peacocks, showing off their feathers and displaying themselves. Peach Girl had long since grown tired of all of this, so everything Qin Yu did was in line with her wishes. Thinking of this, Qin Yu let out a sigh of relief. Since Peach Maiden wasn't angry, the yard master probably wouldn't pursue the matter. After all, it was just a temporary expedient and didn't have any substance. If the yard master got angry because of it, it would only attract more attention. Fortunately, although senior sister Peach Blossom has a cold temperament, she is a reasonable person. As for offending the second or several generations of the various forces, although it was troublesome, it wasn't a big deal. When Qin Yu agreed to cooperate with Dragon Lady, he was already prepared to provoke the wrath of these people, as long as he was still a disciple of the Peach Garden. So what if these people were angry? Did he really dare to make a move on him? Taking a step back, even if these people dared to attack him, would Qin Yu be afraid? At that time, who would be the one crying? Glancing at Peach Maiden's tightly shut door, Qin Yu cupped his hands across his chest and left. Behind the door, Peach Maiden heard his distant footsteps and placed a hand on her chest. Bang, bang. Her heart was beating so hard, and a strange emotion was vibrating in her heart. Why was this happening? It wasn't just because of her heartbeat and the shock of her emotions, but also because she wasn't angry at Qin Yu for doing such a thing. She knew her own temperament the best. Peach Maiden had never been a person who was easy to get along with. She had an indifferent temperament and didn't like to be close to others. Towards everything in the world, she maintained a cold and distant attitude. Many of the disciples of the Peach Garden had known each other for many years, but none of them had ever dared to do anything out of line with Peach Maiden. Was what Qin Yu did considered out of line? Of course it was, and it was unprecedented out of line. This was what Peach Maiden didn't understand. Was it because of the entanglement of auras that her father spoke of? Looking at the spirit enchantment wine quietly placed on the table, Peach Maiden couldn't help but wonder when she would find a chance to make Qin Yu drink it. After determining that Peach Maiden wasn't angry, Qin Yu had already tacitly agreed to this matter. Then he suddenly understood and didn't bother to argue with Dragon Maiden any further. In the East Sea, wanting to seek justice from this woman was far too difficult. But that didn't matter. Everyone came from a holy land, and there would be plenty of opportunities in the future. You definitely wouldn't dare to do it openly, but you could do it in secret. In short, he definitely couldn't swallow this loss. Let's just ride the donkey and read the libretto. Just you wait and see. As Qin Yu returned to his room, he didn't know that at this time Dragon Maiden was stretching out her neck, sneering as she waited outside. But as he waited and waited, the courtyard was silent, not even the slightest sound coming out. Could that boy Qin Yu have been scared? He didn't go to find Peach Maiden at all? That couldn't be. His expression at the time had already expressed his attitude. And confessing to Dragon Maiden was indeed Qin Yu's best choice. She couldn't figure it out. She patiently waited for a while longer. Finally, the thoroughly exhausted dragon Maiden pushed open the door and walked in. There were defensive spells in the courtyard, but they were useless against Dragon Maiden. She knew where Peach Maiden's room was. As she entered the courtyard, she looked around and didn't see any trace of Chinyu. She knocked on the door. Creak! The door opened. Peach Maiden frowned. "What are you doing here?" Her tone didn't seem quite right. Dragon Maiden's heart trembled. Her smile became even brighter. "Big Sister Peach, I haven't seen you in several days. I missed you." Peach Maiden was expressionless. "You can spread rumors just because you missed me." Dragon Maiden's smile stiffened. What did this mean? Chinyu already said that it was impossible. There was clearly no movement just now. Or could it be that this sinister and despicable boy had already confessed to Peach Maiden? But that didn't seem right either. With Peach Maiden's personality, she would definitely stop them from messing around. It was impossible for there to be no movement at all. Dragon Maiden felt a bit dizzy. Peach Maiden glanced at her. "This matter ends here." She paused for a moment and then said, "Don't continue to target Chinyu." Bang! The door closed. Dragon Maiden's eyes widened. As she looked at the closed door, she felt a stabbing pain in her heart. Then there was a sound. This was the sound of her heart breaking. Peach Maiden knew everything, but didn't say anything. Whether it was what she knew just now or what she already knew, in Dragon Maiden's eyes it was all the same. She wasn't angry because of this, or rather, she tacitly approved of this matter. No, Peach Maiden wasn't like this. She had never been like this. Why she never liked to meddle in other people's business. But she actually took the initiative to remind me not to target Chinyu. Chinyu, it was Chinyu. Dragon Maiden clenched her fists. Her teeth creaked as she bit down on them, nearly breaking them to pieces. Bastard, stinky bastard, bastard. Just what sort of place was she in that she couldn't compare with this useless little gigolo? This was impossible. This was absolutely impossible. Peach Maiden had actually taken a liking to him. Dragon Maiden turned and left. She rushed to Chinyu's door. She wanted to kick him out, but in the end she held herself back. Calm! She had to be calm. She couldn't do anything that would alert the enemy. She forcefully swallowed a mouthful of blood and turned to leave. Her speed was extremely fast. She was afraid that if she slowed even a little, she wouldn't be able to stop herself from changing her mind. She would turn around and tear Chinyu to pieces. "You bastard! I came looking for you to put on an act. This was just the beginning, and you're already taking things too seriously. With this old lady here, you can forget about stealing Peach Maiden away." She could ignore everyone else, but she had to kill Chinyu. Dragon Maiden's eyes were red with anger. She returned to her palace to quietly heal her wounds while preparing a sure-kill strike for Chinyu. This time, she didn't hesitate to pay any price. Chinyu originally thought that after Susher left, there would still be people coming to cause trouble. After all, looking at things from the current point of view, his previous actions weren't very proper. But in reality, no one came after Susher. The courtyard that had been visited all day long had finally quieted down. Who said that the second generation were mostly brainless idiots? From what Chinyu had seen so far, they were at least elite cultivators. Of course, he couldn't rule out the possibility that they might have confirmed Chinyu's status as the son-in-law of Peach Blossom Garden and swallowed their fangs. After all, Chinyu's status wasn't to be trifled with. Without a position and without a turning point, they could just casually attack him. The garden master's anger subsided. But no matter what, he had offended too many people this time. Although it looked fine now, it definitely wouldn't be peaceful in the future. Chinyu thought that no matter what he did in the future, it would be best to be careful. Who knew he might be schemed against? The peaceful days finally came to an end after 4 days. Our Lord Dragon Sage of the East Sea had finally woken up from his sleep. The birthday banquet that had been delayed was finally about to begin. That's right. Such a large group of people had rushed over from all directions of the vast sun world from hundreds of millions of miles away. They had been waiting idly all day because the dragon sage had fallen asleep. No one suggested waking him up, let alone a few days, even if he slept for 3 to 5 months. So what? If they could wait, they would wait. If they couldn't wait, they would think of a way to continue waiting. This was the true saint of the Permetha realm. After Qin Yu received the notice, he knocked on Peach Maiden's door. But this time, she didn't come out immediately. After waiting for a while, Qin Yu couldn't help but frown. He had a bad feeling and was about to break down the door. Peach Maiden opened the door. "What's the matter?" Qin Yu didn't answer. He glanced at her first. Her expression was normal and her aura was calm. But for some reason, he felt that there was something different about her compared to before. But as for what it was, he couldn't say. He could only put it aside for the time being. He bowed and said, "Senior Apprentice Sister Peach, someone from the Dragon Palace has sent word that the birthday banquet will begin today." Peach Maiden nodded. "Let's go." He glanced at the plain clothes she was wearing and wanted to remind her to change. After all, today was the Dragon Sage's birthday banquet. But as he thought about it, it seemed that from the first time they met, Peach Maiden had been wearing this plain pink dress. Thus he suppressed this thought. The Dragon Sage had woken up today and decided to hold the birthday banquet as soon as he woke up. It must have been very rushed, but the Dragon Palace had arranged everything smoothly without any hiccups. Peach Maiden and Qin Yu walked out of the courtyard and were quickly invited to board the carriage. The carriage was pulled by a type of seahorse. It was tall and sturdy and covered in scales. When it looked at people, it shined with a spiritual light. When Peach Maiden boarded the carriage, there was no need for her to say anything. The 4 seahorses knelt to the ground and allowed her to board. But when it was Qin Yu's turn, he didn't receive such treatment. The 4 seahorses even snorted as if they were warning him. This difference in treatment was a bit too great. For better or worse, he was the Peach Blossom Garden's Miss Nine, so could he go any further? He seriously suspected that this was related to the Dragon Lady. Humph! Women will always be women. They always like to play tricks. Qin Yu disdainfully sat down beside Peach Maiden. Soon, he couldn't be bothered with the 4 seahorses in front of him. This was because the carriage wasn't completely sealed off and he could clearly see what was going on. As the greetings sounded out, eyes fell on Qin Yu's face. Although their smiles were calm, Qin Yu could still feel their malice. They were eager to try, like a group of beasts that had their fangs stained with flesh and blood and were ready to pounce out to hunt. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. Something must have happened that he didn't know about. As Qin Yu furrowed his eyebrows, the Dragon Lady's carriage approached. She greeted Peach Maiden with a smile and then turned to look at him. "Junior Apprentice, Brother Qin, for my father's birthday banquet this time, in order to show how much we value our honored guests, I specially asked for a favor. My father has agreed to take out a treasure as a wager. You must try your best. After all, this is the first time that the Peach Blossom Garden's Miss Nine has appeared in public. You cannot ruin your prestige." Chapter 12:17. With just one sentence, Qin Yu knew that Dragon Girl didn't have any good intentions. This so-called prize was most likely another trap she dug for him. It was a simple logic. In the East Ocean Dragon clan, Qin Yu had the most enemies and was hated the most. Peach Girl's courtyard was bustling with noise and excitement. Now, there were as many people waiting for a chance to teach him a lesson. Moreover, all of them were powerful characters. Before, they didn't dare to come here. First, this was the East Sea Dragon Palace, and they had to consider Long Sheng's face. Second, in their opinion, Qin Yu was the son-in-law of the Peach Garden. If he attacked without proper status, the consequences would be severe. But now it had come. Since Long Sheng had taken out the wager, everyone had to fight for it to show their support. It was normal for them to hurt others mercilessly. Qin Yu immediately woke up. No wonder everyone had looked at him with eyes full of ill intent and eagerness. It seemed that they already knew about the prize. Looking at Dragon Girl, Qin Yu sneered inwardly. No matter how precious the prize Longsheng put out was, what could he do if he didn't participate? Could it be that you want to force me to fight? Sensing Qin Yu's eyes, Dragon Girl smiled brightly. Do you think the trap I set up can be so easily broken? You want to be a coward? Haha, no way. He was getting old, and when he said he was sleepy, he fell asleep without knowing why. Luckily, this sleep wasn't too long. Otherwise, the birthday banquet would have been ruined. To be honest, as an old dragon who had lived for countless years, Longsheng didn't care much about birthday banquets. But this time was different. There were two little fellows at the birthday banquet that were worthy of his attention. One was Peach Girl. This little girl's situation was complicated, and Longsheng wasn't sure what the peach seller was up to. The other was Qin Yu. This kid was good. Staying in the peach garden with the peach seller was a waste of a good seedling. Based on the noble sentiment that a genius should not be let down, Longsheng had already made the decision to keep him in the Eastern Sea and teach him, so that he could have a bright future in the future, not wasting his aptitude. Of course, this matter was a bit lacking, but Longsheng was confident that he could grasp this kid in his hands. In the East Ocean, our home ground, we are so confident. Even if that old peach seller comes, he won't be able to take advantage of us. But when he woke up and asked, Longsheng was so angry that he almost had a heart attack. He thought to himself, "My dear daughter, why did you have nothing better to do? It was a rather simple matter, but now that you've done so much, there's been a setback for no reason." If the person selling the peaches was shameless and insisted on this point, saying that the Eastern Sea forcibly snatched the son-in-law of the peach garden, then it would be very embarrassing. No, I have to hurry up. If I let the dragon lady continue tormenting me, who knows what will happen? Therefore, the awakened Longsheng immediately decided that the birthday banquet would be held today. When the dragon lady came over and suggested setting up a prize to show the younger generation who came to congratulate them, Longsheng could see the purpose of her suggestion at a glance. He, the Eastern Sea Dragon Sage, had never been one to give anything back. There was no reason for him to give away his treasures to someone else. But as his thoughts changed, Longsheng changed his mind. This was also a chance to observe Qin Yu some more. After all, in order to keep him here, Longsheng was prepared to put in a lot of effort. There was no harm in being a bit more cautious. If this boy really was a promising talent, then he would have to completely firm his resolve. On the other hand, he would be able to make timely adjustments. After all, although the person selling the peaches wasn't a good person, his fists were still hard. Without enough benefits, it was best not to provoke him. The Dragon Sage's birthday banquet hall was dazzling with splendor and wealth. But right now, Qin Yu wasn't in the mood to pay attention to such things. Staring at the jade card in his hand, he clenched his teeth. This dragon lady, her heart was truly incomparably vicious. It was no wonder that she had confidently revealed the trap she had dug and wasn't afraid that Qin Yu would be prepared for it. It was because she had blocked off any possibility of him refusing to participate from the start. Now, in this birthday banquet hall, all the guests participating in the birthday banquet held a jade card in their hands. According to the Dragon Palace cultivator hosting the banquet, the Lord Dragon Sage didn't like the tedious process. As long as anyone could defeat 3 opponents in a row, they could obtain a prize. They could choose their opponents, and they could also be chosen by others. The rules were simple and the efficiency was high. Of course, it wasn't without loopholes. If everyone cooperated, it would be easy to win 3 rounds in a row. But the problem was that in today's situation, it was the Dragon Sage who had personally set up the prize. Who would have the nerve to do something so shameful, disregarding losing face? If they provoked the Dragon Sage's anger, then the gains wouldn't make up for the losses. Moreover, in everyone's minds, there was another thought. They didn't need the prize, but they had to beat up Qin Yu. A great opportunity was placed in front of them. They could happily beat up this despicable person without worrying about being investigated afterwards. Just thinking about it made them feel good. The result was that Qin Yu stood beside Peach Girl and received a basket full of malice. His eyes were as sharp as knives. In fact, in order to have a chance to personally take action, in the seemingly festive and harmonious birthday banquet hall, there were actually transactions being carried out in secret. Brother Liu, when you challenge Qin Yu, deliberately lose and give him the token in your hand. Is that all right? No, I still want to personally do it. I'll give you double what you saw last time. This 3. Deal. The two glanced at each other. Then they looked at Qin Yu, their lips curved up in a cold smile. And there were many similar transactions taking place in secret. Su Shi was the most exaggerated of them all. He had already reached an agreement with 3 people. In other words, as long as everything went smoothly, he could personally challenge Qin Yu 4 times. Of course, the premise was that Qin Yu had to be able to withstand a beating. Otherwise, it was likely he wouldn't be able to last long enough to be hammered to the ground. He had to hurry. If he missed such a good opportunity today, he would regret it for the rest of his life. The Dragon Sage has arrived. Everyone in the hall hurriedly stopped talking. They stood up and respectfully bowed. Juniors, greet the Dragon Sage. With a dull thud, the Dragon Sage's dignified voice sounded out. Rise. Qin Yu looked up. He saw a giant crystal wall that just happened to land on the main seat deep within the hall. He had seen this before. When he had taken advantage of Peach Girl's limelight, he had gone to the trench where the Dragon Sage had meditated. This was the crystal wall in front of him. However, for the Dragon Sage to bring a crystal wall at this time of the birthday banquet, the Dragon Sage had quite the character. Or could it be that there was something wrong with him, and he didn't want others to see his true appearance? Inexplicably, Qin Yu thought back to the small dragon claw mark he had seen when he probed the invitation. I'm afraid I'm tired of living. I can't believe he dares to randomly guess the little secrets of a true saint. Hurry up and stop. Just as Qin Yu was about to look away, the giant pair of eyes in the crystal wall suddenly turned. His body froze. He didn't know if it was an illusion or not, but Qin Yu felt as if the Dragon Sage had glanced at him just now. He had just thought about it, but he had sensed it? A true saint was too terrifying. Qin Yu hurriedly restrained his thoughts. He respectfully lowered his head, a look of awe and respect on his face. He couldn't afford to provoke him. The Dragon Sage's dignified voice continued. At today's birthday banquet, all of you must eat and drink to your heart's content. Otherwise, when you return, the old fogies of your families will say that I am harsh to the juniors. My East Sea has always been generous to others. You must not listen to the rumors of the outside world. Then let the banquet begin. Below the main hall, the mouths of the cultivators who came to attend the birthday banquet twitched. They thought, Lord Dragon Sage, it's really hard for us to answer your words. Everyone in the world knows that although you have the body of a true dragon, your innate character is that of a Pichio. You are extremely stingy and greedy. If not for this, you wouldn't have fought with the yard master over a peach. In the end, after being beaten up, you extorted a sum of money from the yard master and deducted it from the cost of buying the peach. Therefore, it was really funny to hear Lord Dragon Sage say these words. But no matter how funny it was, they couldn't laugh. They had to hold it in. The utensils of the East Sea's birthday banquet were really precious. Just any cup, bowl, or plate was enough to make people gasp in admiration. But the things inside, how should they put it? Good things were definitely good things, but they also depended on who they were being used for. The dignified Dragon Sage of the East Sea, who had stepped onto the peak of Vastyong, was holding a birthday banquet with such great fanfare. Yet he used these things to entertain his guests? Shabby. It was too shabby. But thinking about it, today was the East Sea Dragon Sage's birthday banquet, so everyone could understand. On the surface, he ate happily, toasting and saying thank you. Senior Dragon Sage, for your hospitality, and so on. In short, his acting skills were on point. Unlike Peach Girl's slow eating, Chinyu ate very quickly. In just a few gulps, most of the dishes on the table were gone. After drinking all the wine in his cup, he gently placed it on the table. Then, he stood up and whispered a few words in Peach Girl's ear. She frowned slightly and then nodded. Chinyu's face lit up. He cupped his hands together and said, "Thank you, senior sister." He turned around and left. Nonsense. Today's birthday banquet was clearly a trap for him. A group of people wanted to beat him up. Knowing this, he still didn't run away. Did he have a screw loose in his head? Go, I must go. I'm not here. Even if you want to make a move, you won't be able to find a target. But just as Chinyu turned around, he saw a dragon girl standing in front of him, a bright smile on her face. "Ah, junior apprentice brother Chinyu. You sure eat quickly. I just happened to have something I wanted to discuss with you. Sometimes this big sister here is too impulsive. Let's drink a cup and let bygones be bygones." Chinyu clenched his teeth so hard they nearly shattered. That damn dragon girl. She clearly didn't want to let him go. She even said some nonsense about letting bygones be bygones. Feeling everyone's eyes gathering on him, Chinyu clutched his stomach and bitterly smiled. "I'm sorry. My cultivation recently has caused my stomach to feel uncomfortable. I need to solve this problem first. When I return, I will definitely drink a few more cups with Big Sister Dragon Girl." Just as he was about to walk over, he was grabbed by Dragon Girl. Her voice rose several octaves. "Stomach discomfort? For people like us, the higher our cultivation, the better our condition will be. But it is because of this that some small problems are worth paying attention to. Junior apprentice Brother Chin, you cannot be careless. Everyone, if anyone has any pills to treat stomach discomfort, then hurry up and take out a few. Otherwise, junior apprentice Brother Chin, you'll have to leave early." Chinyu immediately understood that he wouldn't be able to leave today. He glanced at Dragon Girl. This little girl had a smug look in her eyes, as if saying, "If you're not satisfied, then hit me." She was simply asking for a beating.